Station. It's Roc and Manuch with Jimmy B. Now on ESPN 620, 98.7 FM HD2, and streaming live at ArizonaSports.com. The guys are powered by the law offices of Lerner and Rowe. In a record need a check? Make one call, that's all. 602-977-1900. And now on your ESPN station in Phoenix,
Making mics up.
Roc and Manuch with Jimmy B.
Well, half the Elite Eight is set. Diamondbacks down already 0-1 for the season, and the Suns are in Minnesota. Welcome in, Roc and Manuch with Jimmy B here on ESPN 620 from Wright Toyota, right on the corner, right on the price, Wright Toyota in Scottsdale. Got a good show for you today as we find out right as we start. Deion Sanders is now among the top 10 highest paid head coaches in college football after agreeing to a new contract today. According to the Boulder Daily, the Board of Regents approved a 5-year, $54 million contract that'll pay him $10 million this season. Then it'll jump up to 11 2000. So it goes 10 the next two seasons. Then 27, 28, he goes to 11, and then $1 million in 2029. How about that? That is, I don't know. Did they have to liquidate the school there to be able to pay him? But
a lot of wealthy alumni there, Rock, coming out of Colorado. So Board of Regents, hey, if you want to keep this guy and not him flirting with the National Football League every year, give him the Godfather offer, which basically is.
I am surprised he didn't ask for the number one the most, because Kirby Smart right now at Georgia, he's 13.2. Ryan Day's 12.5. Dabo at Clemson is 11.5. Dan Lanning at Oregon is 11. Sark at Texas 10.8. Lincoln Riley USC 10.1. DeBoer at Alabama is 10.25. Then it's Deion, Bill Belichick all tied at 10. And then Brian Kelly at 9.9. I would have thought the way he is so into his ego, he would have wanted to be the highest paid coach.
I don't know about that. I think that's a misnomer about him. Yeah, he's got an ego, but I think he has an understanding of his comp. You talked about guys that have won some national titles that have been there. So you look at him, is going into his third year and wanting him to stay. He quite hasn't gotten to that mountaintop. So they probably went, look, here's what these guys are making. Here's their record. Here's all the things they've done. Here's where you're at. We want to keep you. We want to make it fair market value. So maybe in 2-3 years, if he takes them to a national title or another Big 12 winnings and moves forward, they might tear this up 2 or 3 years and make him the highest paid.
Yeah.
You never know.
All right, let's get to the NCAA tournament. The Sweet 16 underway yesterday. It was all chalk early as number 1 Florida, number 2 Alabama both delivered blowout victories. The Tide, man, they had a night. Record-breaking night. Most points in the NCAA tournament already, 113. Most three-pointers by a team in the tournament at 25. Most three-point attempts at 51. You look at Mark Sears, the great guard for Alabama. He led the way with 34 points. He shot 10 of 16 from the three-point range. He was on fire. And then after the second part, unfortunately, Arizona goes down as they get beat by number 1 Duke by double figures. They led double figures throughout the game. Love finished his career with 35 points, but man, Cooper Flagg put on a show once again. 30 points, 7 assists, 6 boards, and 3 blocks in the win. And in the other game, Texas Tech, they delivered the second largest comeback ever in a Sweet 16 game. They rallied back from 16 to beat Arkansas in overtime by 3.
We talked about Calipari and what he's done as far as getting teams, bringing this team around this year. And quite frankly, I feel Arkansas should have still won that game. But to take this team and take Texas Tech to the mat like they did and Tech moving on. As far as that Alabama-BYU game, I think we might have talked about this. First one to 95 wins, right, Rock?
Yeah.
Nobody plays defense. But my goodness gracious, the Sears kid, time after time after time. And then some wide open threes with 10 for 16, as you mentioned, 25 three-pointers in a college basketball game. And then you're watching that U of A Duke game. Just the shooting, when you watch all those games last night, it's just every one of these kids, except for maybe some of the big guys down low, are phenomenal shooters. So when they get the NBA, it's like no big deal, even though the three-point line is maybe a foot or two back. But it was 3-ball after 3-ball after 3-ball. And Caleb Love doing a good job bringing U of A, getting them back within, 5 points with, 6 minutes to go. And then Duke just took off. And then as far as Cooper Flagg, when you watch him an entire game, you appreciate what this kid, 17 years old, can do. He's ambidextrous. He goes to the ring, can shoot, he rebound, he can pass, he can block, coming off the one swat that he swatted away. So a lot of fun watching those games last
night. I was
night.
hoping that, Arizona was going to come back. I mean, they lost by 6, but Duke was up by 19 points.
Yeah, they were.
And then Flagg and Duke just kind of turned it on. So here's what's next. So with Florida winning, they will now take on Texas Tech, who rallied to beat Arkansas as we managed. So Florida and Texas Tech. Duke will now have a good one with Alabama. So those games are going on. But we got games tonight to talk about. We will handicap them. Well, we won't. Scott Spreitzer will in the 2 o'clock hour. So he will break down a bunch of those games for us as it gets underway here in a few hours. Not too long, but it'll be coming up here sooner than later as Ole Miss, Michigan State, Kentucky, Tennessee, Michigan, Auburn, Purdue, and Houston. We'll get those, and then we'll have them handicap the Texas Tech, Florida, and Bama Duke game.
That Michigan Auburn game, 8.5. Auburn favored by 8.5 over Michigan. So, now I think after guys have kind of gotten their, what would you call it, tournament legs underneath them, here they are on the Sweet 16. You saw Alabama take off. You watched that Texas Tech Arkansas game, which was a hell of a game. But you're kind of starting to see, I think, guys settle in, and we're seeing the kind of teams that we saw during the year. This Alabama Duke game, talk about a shootout at the OK Corral. That might be another one, the first one to 95 wins. I mean, you're going, I don't know if we've seen these kind of scores. They mentioned this last night, the scoring that they've seen really in the last 2 years with the three-point shooting, obviously, versus 10, 15, not too long ago, Rock, 75, 72, maybe 80 to 78. You're seeing teams get to 90s and to hundreds in the NCAA tournament. And they attest that not only to the three-point shooting, but the prowess of every one of these kids that can shoot the ball like it's no tomorrow.
Let's talk some D-backs as they fell 10-5 to the Cubbies. Zach Gallen gave up 4 runs and 4 hits. The line's not good. 83 pitches and just 43 strikes. He walked 4, he had some issues, did strike out 4. Gino Suarez, he had a solo. Josh Nair, who they picked up from the Indians or Guardians in the offseason, he had an RBI single. But they did cut the lead 8-5 in the 6th, but just some costly mistakes.
3 minutes.
Didn't seem to have it.
Yeah.
And the Chicago Cubs did, and they picked up game 1, but that's all right. We still got 161 games to go. I will tell you this, though. I've always been not a big fan of certain fan bases. And for the longest time, I grew up a Philly fan, so all right, let's preface it by saying that because people hate
you have fans. A lot of room to talk, Rob.
I know, well, then I can. So
from experience.
Yes, so everybody rips on me, and rightfully so. However, I've always hated the Boston Red Sox fans, okay, even more so after they won the World Series. But one of the teams I've always followed growing up because of WGN was the Cubs. Really, I've always liked the Cubs, the lovable Cubs. How do you hate the Cubs? And even when they won their World Series, I was excited for them. But they have now taken over as the fan base I can't stand.
You think?
Last night at my watering hole, I had to sit next to a couple fans that are huge Cubs fans from Chicago. And at one point I said, why don't you guys get your own damn bar? I was so mad that I left.
Are you serious?
I left because they were so annoying.
Cubs fans?
Every freaking base hit, they're cheering. They're basically standing up. And I'm just like, come on, dude. It's game 1 of the season. Granted, it's game 3 for them. But I'm like saying to myself, give me an effing break. I mean, just relax. It's baseball. This is not like they're scoring touchdowns and you can get up and cheer. But it was so annoying that I left. I literally left because I couldn't handle, and they were just loud. Now, maybe I got there a little later, and maybe they've had a couple, but it was to the point where I won't go. If I see these 2 particular people, I'm not really. I'm going to turn around. Because they're just obnoxious.
Well-
It's one thing, it's one thing to go into a bar, a sports bar
Sure.
that is predominantly Diamondback fans.
Right.
About a minute left.
And you got to be an a-hole and just cheer and yell. I mean, they were foul balls they were cheering
Well,
on.
you could take a lot, Rock, and you left.
I did.
Wow. You know what? They didn't have a lot to cheer about last year. As you mentioned, they're 0-2 coming to that
Doesn't
game.
matter. I was
So they
pissed.
had some pent-up cheering with a couple of pops to kind of get them motivated that way.
Suns tonight against a team that they just cannot beat, and that being the Minnesota Timberwolves. That's coming up at 5 o'clock. By the way, Diamondbacks will be on ESPN 620 tonight. 98.7 will have the Suns. We're currently 10th in the Western Conference at 35 and 38. Minnesota Timberwolves, they're 8th in the Western Conference as Phoenix hopes to end their 3-game losing streak, road losing streak. And I think they've lost 7 in a row.
7 in a row.
It's
Last 7 in a row.
So not good.
Clear
Not
to wrap.
good. All right,
Clear
we'll
to
get
wrap.
to our sounds of the night in just a moment, but I want to tell you about Weekapaw Casino and Resort and the WKP Sportsbook. Catch all the tournament action tonight, tomorrow, and Sunday, and then join us on Saturday, April 5th for the final weekend of the tournament. Thanks to our friends at Dos Equis. We'll be hosting free cash props, squares for both games. Plus, you can roll the jumbo dice for a chance to win $50,000. Everything's up on our website at rockandmanuch.com. All right, the sounds you're going to hear a Cub highlight. Shohei, you're going to get some NCAA in there. You're going to hear from Calipari and more as we continue from Wright Toyota. This is ESPN 620.
It's Friday, and the guys are live from Wright Toyota. Right on the corner, right on the price. Wright Toyota, located at 77th Street and
Making mics up.
in Scottsdale. Now back to the guys on ESPN 620.
All right, let's fly through some of the baseball from yesterday. For you lovable Cubs, here is Ian Happ with his solar home run, which made the score 4-2 Chicago on the top of the fourth, thanks to Marquis.
2-2. Hammered right field. This one back. It's got a chance, and it's gone. Ian Happ will touch them all. He's knocked in 3 of the 4 Cub runs, and he'll circle the bases. The Cubs on top. It is 4-2, his first of the season.
He had a good night. He had a homer, double, and 3 RBIs as the Cubs beat the D-backs 10-6. All right, how about this? This is pretty cool. Tyler O'Neill. Listen to this. And this is his 6th straight opening day home run.
O'Neill drives one the other way. That's headed out toward right field. He's done it again. The unstoppable opening day machine. Tyler O'Neill has homered for a 6th consecutive year on opening day. This time, he does it in his home country.
Look out in Burnaby Bay. 6 consecutive opening day home runs. Are you kidding me?
I think that is absolutely amazing.
That is amazing. I mean, you think every year, as long as you play, if you get 1 home run on opening day, and then you come back the next year, so year after year after year. So I imagine Tyler O'Neill next year, you can expect him to have another opening day home run. You talk about records that'll probably never happen again. That might be one of them right there. Because when you think about some of the superstars that play the game, even they might get a home run here and there, but that might be one, that record may not be broken for many, many years.
I can't imagine
No,
it
I
ever
can't
being.
either.
Shohei Ohtani, man. How about him? We're going to play a home run. Anything he does, we're going to play. I mean, I know
Yeah, you have
I'm not
to.
a Dodger fan, but we are very fortunate to be in an era where we get to watch this guy. And once he starts pitching here, whatever that may be,
Yep.
will be just amazing. But here's his dinger in the bottom of the 7th. This courtesy of ESPN.
28 homers, a Dodger Stadium record, and OPS over 1,100. Here's the 3-2. Shohei hits this one to left. It's carried. He delivers again. Ohtani a home run. Tom Hanks must have called it. Magic called it. And the Dodger fans are looking forward to seeing that for years to come. The lead grows to 2 on Ohtani's 2nd of the season.
Shohei Ohtani read the pitches.
So
and
when a little bit later, we're going to get into sports villains, all-time sports villains, because we're putting Dan Hurley in that category.
Yeah.
Do you think Shohei Ohtani could end up being a sports villain?
No, not Shohei Ohtani.
He's
He's likable guy, man. He's likable.
He's likable
outgoing.
because we don't know what he's saying.
Well, I mean, he's got an interpreter. I
Yeah.
mean, I think some of these guys know enough English to be dangerous.
I do too. I think he knows a lot more.
I don't know if you saw this or not. Last night they were talking about his home run, and there was a thing of Babe Ruth after so many at bats, and they were both like neck and neck as far as home runs. And then there was another one with him as far as he and Babe Ruth and Ohtani as far as pitching innings. When Babe Ruth was pitching early on in his career, almost ditto, same amount of years, same amount of games, and you looked at both of them and go, wow. And now, will he be ever as great as Babe Ruth? Time will tell. I just thought it was so interesting that the guys that do these metrics, these records, find that kind of stuff and put them back to back.
Let's get to some NCAA highlights from last night. Here's Alabama breaking the NCAA record single game 3-pointer record he did in the second half.
Tournament record. Sears has it tied. This is for the record for himself. Mark Sears, 3-pointer number 9.
So they currently have the most 3-pointers by a team in a tournament game. That was 25. And the most 3-pointers attempted, which is 51. They also broke the record for the most points in an NCAA tournament with 113, but it was led by Mark Spears, who you just heard. He was 10 for 16 in the 3-point range.
You know, and you only had one regular shot, 11 for 18 on the day, but yeah, 51 threes in a college game, and you make 25, dang near 50% of these bad boys.
And then Arkansas, Texas Tech. Here is the late layup that completed the incredible comeback in overtime. Well, that was a thriller, courtesy of TBS.
And this is who you want. Knox will pick him up. Williams corkscrews up, off, and down. Driving on Hawkins. Firing off. Texas Tech has won. Here it is again. Look at Williams. Drop steps back to that.
All right, there you have it.
shoulder.
That is Texas Tech and Arkansas. So last week, I played a joke on Manuch, and as well as Jimmy B.
You got me.
Jimmy B
It's a good one.
didn't get it right away, right, Jax? But we got he got hooked initially, right? And it has to do with AI. And many of you are not familiar with AI. You know about AI, but you don't know how to use AI. Well, AI has done a great job on social media on taking a particular player, coach, or whomever, and creating words for them. And there are 3 really good ones that are going viral. We thought we'd play them. So if somebody tunes in after not hearing me say that disclaimer, you may think they're real.
Sure,
because
I did.
They are that good. Last week we got Manuch. We did an AI that Aaron Rodgers was going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. That was a done deal last week, but that did never happen because of AI. Here's Cooper Flagg in the post-game presser after beating the University of Arizona.
I'm the best basketball player in this country, so it's not a coincidence that I balled out tonight. Dropped 30-piece chicken McNuggets to go along with 6 boards and 7 assists. I even had a couple alley-oop passes to come on. It was a dominant performance for the Dukies. We sent those cactus-humping peasants back to Tucson where they belong. See you guys on Saturday.
It's kind of obvious, but I like it.
So obvious that Aaron Rodgers was going to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
No, he wouldn't. I don't think Cooper Flagg has that in him.
You don't know that?
To have that kind of
He's 17 years
A
old.
little Australian, too, in that clip.
Yeah. And then
That was good.
here's John Calipari after his in the post-game presser after losing to Texas Tech.
These kids gave everything, even in this game.
This is the real one.
They had
Oh,
to
it's the
try
real
to win
one?
the game. The other stuff, I need to sit down with these guys, but you really think tonight's the night or tomorrow morning's the? I mean, we're all.
It just wasn't clear which one you wanted there,
They had vision
and people can hear you. So
continuing to play, and so did I. But I'm going to say it again for everybody. For me, this was as rewarding a year, and I feel like crap right now. But this was as rewarding a year as I've had in all my years. Now, I've had teams that were better and finished better and national champions and all that stuff. This was a different reward.
All right. That was the real one. Okay.
That sounded very real, Ron.
Yeah. Okay.
Very
So,
real.
Connor, can we go to the fake one, the AI one now?
yeah, let's do a compare here.
All right. We'll do a comparison here. So now this is the,
These are
this
fun.
is the AI one.
Yeah, I might be wearing a $2,000 suit. My Armani, by the way. It's real nice, slick hair, expensive cologne. I'm a great coach, and I looked the part, but I got beat tonight by a bum wearing a $75 Nike zip-up. And as embarrassing as it is to lose to a man with the fashion sense of a gym teacher from the 90s, Grant McCaslin's Red Raiders beat us fair and square. And yeah, it hurts to lose after leading by 16 points with 10 minutes left. But hey, at least I got further than Pitino. Bada bing, bada boom. Anyways, see you guys later.
Classic.
It's awesome.
Very good.
All right. So because this is a little confusing. So Connor and Jax, tell me where we're at next. So we got one more, or is that it?
We have one more. This one right here is Florida head coach Todd Golden. Post-game presser talking about not only the win over Maryland, but how he would never play for the head coach quitting on his team during the tournament.
The Terps didn't even want to be here, man. All I could hear about before this game was how Kevin Willard was going to quit on his team. I mean, what kind of coach is in the Sweet 16 with his guys and is spending all his time off the court negotiating a contract with Villanova? The guy's only about the money, and I certainly wouldn't want to play for him. So it's no wonder Kevin's players quit on him tonight. It was only a 2-point game at half, but as soon as my Gators turned up the pressure late in the game, when things got tough, the Maryland players gave up and let us walk all over them. We absolutely dominated them on the boards, 42 rebounds to 20, and had 6 players in double digits Gator Nation, nobody wants this more than us. The Terps didn't, and we sent them home tonight. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the Elite Eight.
That's great stuff.
Isn't it good? So when I sent this stuff
Oh,
to
man.
Jax, I'm like, can we go
About a
on
minute
air with
left.
this?
Minute left.
And then Jax is like, well, I don't know. And then I think after you started listening to it, and then after you make the edits,
after I bleeped them out,
it's like,
we were
it's
good.
good radio. I think it's
That's
awesome. And there's so
outstanding.
many of them. I mean, they follow my feed all the time.
I feel like Calipari's is real if he was allowed to say it. Like,
Yeah.
That's what he would actually
Yeah.
say. Cooper Flag, I don't know. Todd Golin's pretty quiet and humble, but that's Calipari talking about his expensive suits.
The subliminal side of Calipari.
Yeah,
we heard.
exactly.
I think it's outstanding. We're gonna keep doing that. We gotta create some kind of segment. We need to do that.
We might need to try to get
Do it.
AI with you guys.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
How can you do that?
I'll have to look it up.
Can you look it up? Because I would love to rip Jimmy B. Just have and Manuch.
You guys are clear to
nose.
toss.
We don't even. We may not even need AI. All right. Last night's sounds are brought to you by Learn and Row, and the Learn and Row Gives Back 12th annual golf tournament. It's at McCormick Ranch once again on Friday, April 25th. This tournament has raised over $1 million over the last 2 years. We're hoping to hit that again this year. Some special shout outs to some of the presenting sponsors: Collision Chiropractic, Pro Performance, Stamp Medical and ChiroFit, and Collision Experts. If you want to play or you want to donate, space is limited. Head to learnandrowgivesback.com. One of our favorites. We're going to catch up with the Diamondbacks radio analyst, Tom Caniotti, get his thoughts on last night and looking ahead to the future, and get a take on his take on Corbin Burns in this 5-day BS, everything that everybody's been talking about. And by the way, he does by far have one of the best opens in radio, which I think you will like if you have not heard it. But here's Jax with our Twin Peaks ESPN 620 update.
It's now time for your Roc and Manuch with Jimmy B's Twin Peaks ESPN 620 update. I'm Jackson Croft. The D-backs dropped opening night last night to the Chicago Cubs 10-6. Zach Allen got the start, but Chicago's bats were just too much. They'll try to bounce back tonight at 6:40 p.m. Merle Kelly takes them out. In March Madness, Duke's Cooper Flag dominated with 30 points as top-seeded Duke Blue Devils knocked out the Arizona Wildcats 100-93. Caleb Love's 35 points weren't enough as the Wildcats season ends in the Sweet 16. And in the NBA, the Suns face the Timberwolves on the road tonight, fighting for a play-in spot. With just 9 games remaining, they're a half game behind the Dallas Mavericks for the 10th spot in the West. Tip-off for that game, 5 p.m. on NBA TV.
15.
Watch all the Sweet 16 games tonight and tomorrow with ice-cold Bud Light and neutral specials featured all weekend at all 5 Valley Twin Peaks locations. Twin Peaks eats, drinks, scenic views. Tom Caniotti up next.
Making Mike's hot.
I mean, that ball, he sees it, it's in the middle of the plate at one point, and then see you later.
The Candyman can. Candiotti just continues to throw slower and slower every inning. Gravity's going to take over pretty soon. The ball's not going to make it to home plate. Air strike 3. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night.
That's right. The Candyman joins us now on Roc and Manuch with Jimmy B here on ESPN 620. How you doing there, Candyman? What's happening today?
Man, all good, man. How's everything going there?
Well, we were hoping a 16-run fourth inning like last year's opening day, but we didn't get that. But I think Mark Ray said it best in the post game that you score in 5 innings, 5 different innings you score, you're normally going to win, right? I mean, in most cases.
Absolutely, especially when you got one of your top starters on the mound, you throw up there 5 runs or 6 runs, that's a win.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately Gallen just didn't have his good stuff, his good command last night. And the Cubs, they pressured him and pressured him into making some mistakes, and they capitalized on them.
So, Tom, when you're seeing a pitcher, struggle, 4 walks, and he was just missing, and what can you really do if you're the pitching coach? I mean, what can you say to him? He's a veteran; he doesn't want to hear. Do you just have to let him work it through?
Yeah, I think the first thing you think of as a pitching coach is to, how are his mechanics?
Mm-hmm.
Is what is not enabling him to throw the ball where he wants to throw it. And, sometimes that could be a little bit of, tension. Sometimes it could be just you're hyped up a little bit too much. You're trying to overthrow. But usually you get that out of your system. And so I think the biggest thing is to, as he's going to get to know the pitchers a little bit better by work, because he's new with them and he's only had really spring training to work with them. So it's going to take maybe a little bit of while and to understand, what makes them tick, what are the things I should be looking for? What are your checkpoints? Mm-hmm. And I'd always have those conversations with whatever pitching coach I had. And it was always great when you had like someone that you've had for a few years, they got to already know you. And so it's going to be a little bit of a process for that. Of course, you don't really even need a pitching coach when you're throwing strikes and, you're punching guys out, you're making your pitches, you're executing them. But, the times when you really need one is when, things aren't going great for you out there. So I think it's just going to be like a little bit of a process, so, they work together and, then when he sees like a little flaw, whether it's Gallen or Merrill or, Corbin or Ryan Nelson or whoever, Fod, whoever, he'll be able to recognize it pretty quickly because he'll know what to look for and probably straighten it out real quick.
Interesting you bring that up, Tom, about anxiousness. He even mentioned he was speeding things up, maybe subliminally. Everybody's excited about the first game of the year. But at some point, do you have to take some deep breaths or handle something like that?
Yeah, nowadays, you have that pitch clock, so you don't really have all that time.
Sure.
I thought Moreno did a good job going out there one time to kind of break it up, slow it down, and we were actually kind of waiting for the pitching coach to come out. But Moreno, he knows Gallen, and so, that's a big plus for him to go out there. But, the opening day starts that I've had in my career, there's a lot of anxiousness leading up to the start. But it seems though as soon as you kind of got into it, then it all kind of got out of your system pretty quickly. But with Gallen, it was just really, really, one of those games that normally we don't see him, miss his spots the way he was missing them last night. Usually his control is pretty pinpoint when he's on. And last night he just couldn't quite make that adjustment.
And when Ryan Nelson came in, he really struggled. But the term grooving your pitches, you had mentioned earlier, not a lot of movement, that's what you look for, but define grooving your pitches and why was that pretty much why he was struggling, while they were lighting him up a little bit?
Yeah, so there are 2 different types of pitchers, right? Gallen is more of a mechanic. He needs to be, his fastball command is certainly like a priority for him, like most pitchers, but particularly for guys like Gallen, pitch like that need to kind of live on the edges with the fastball, and then let his cutter, his changeup, and his curveball, just go ahead and throw those up there. Those are his A+ pitches. And where Ryan Nelson, he's got a tremendous arm, right? He'll run it up there when he's healthy and in form. He'll hit 98, 99 every once in a while, but 97 is playing fast enough. But when you don't locate that and it's pretty straight, then they're going to get a good look at that. They're going to put good swings on those pitches. They might not square them up, but when they do, that's where you get hurt. Because Ryan doesn't have the secondary pitches maybe that Gallen has, or like with Merrill Kelly, watch him tonight. He's a lot like Gallen in the way that his fastball command is critical, and then he can go ahead and really exploit them with his changeup and his his slider and whatever. He's one of those guys, any pitch, any count, anytime. He'll invent a pitch if he has to. So they're a little bit different types of pitchers, but basically they still have to operate the same way. You got to pitch ahead in the count to be able to win.
Overall, were you okay with the bullpen on how they performed, knowing that Gallen only went 4 innings?
Yeah, I mean we'll have to wait and see with that. I know it's going to be a little bit of a work in progress.
Yeah.
We didn't see the 8 relievers, right, because of the score.
Sure.
So you didn't get a chance to see Puck. You didn't get a chance to see Justin Martinez. You didn't get to see that, but you saw Beeks threw the ball well.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he had some pretty good stuff out there. That was the first time I really saw him like in a game that was really, really important like that. So, that was a nice surprise. I thought he threw the ball well. What do we only have? We have
3 minutes. 3 minutes.
2-3 inning last night, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, yeah. So, even the innings that they happened to put a goose egg up in, it was like guys were on base. So it's hard to get into a good rhythm and a good tempo when you're constantly, looking at the guy at first. Is he going to steal? They're going to hit run. What's going to happen here? And that's why we always preach on, the offensive side of the ball. Get some base runners on, create some havoc, create the tension out there. And that's what was happening to the D-backs last night.
So, Tom, we want to get your interpretation of the whole Corbin Burns scenario, if you will. We've heard 3 or 4. I think we kind of sort of maybe understood what Torey Lovullo was saying. I'm not quite sure what he said, but from what you look at and what you understand, not that it's a bad thing to have him starting against the Yankees on the back end, the back end of the rotation. So still a lot of us fans a little miffed that he would be at least number two in tonight's game.
I was a little miffed when he wasn't number 1, to tell you the truth.
So are we.
Yeah. You just spent $210 million on this guy who started the All-Star game last year, had a great year, was traded, pitched great in the playoffs last year. I mean, he's clearly, wanted to be with the Diamondbacks. I just thought that would be like a perfect scenario to go out and, showcase your new toy, right, from the very start.
Yeah.
And, but, the internal reasons that they have, only they're really going to know, what that is. They're not going to probably share it.
Yeah.
100% of it anyway with everybody, but and trying to read between the lines what Torey says about him being kind of like routine oriented and this and that. Well, man, you had all spring to kind of get it going, so it comes out opening day. But I don't know, but I'm very anxious for when Corbin.
About a minute left.
Paired up.
Tom, you played a long time. Did you start any opening days?
Yeah, I had 4 opening day starts.
Wow.
And the last one, I think, was probably the most memorable one because I know I was right there towards the end of my career. And the funny part of it, I was with the A's, and we're playing the Red Sox opening day in '98. And A.J. Hinch is my catcher.
Really?
Which was really funny. And we were good buddies. He was actually living at my house. I gave him, I had a room he could stay in, and he had to face Pedro on the other end of it. So he had to catch a knuckleball and then try to hit 100 miles an hour with Pedro on the mound. So it was, I laugh at him every time I see him now when we run across each other. How was that night?
Well, Tom, we'll be
Clear to
listening
rack.
tonight. We appreciate you as always, as it's on ESPN 620 tonight. So we'll be tuning in. And as always, man, thanks for a few minutes on game day.
All right, sounds good. Talk to you guys later.
Tom Candiotti joining us, the Candyman. Again, you got the Suns on the mothership, 98.7, Arizona Sports at 5. So that means D-backs right here against the Cubs I think it all gets going around 6:30 here on ESPN 620 and on FM at 98.7 HD2. All right, Tom comes to us today thanks to All City Towing. As we mentioned yesterday, we talked to the general manager, and they are hiring all different types of positions. From customer service to drivers to lot attendants to call takers to maybe even looking for a part-time job or a full-time job. Full-time, they got a healthy 401k employer match. They have health benefits, employer-paid life insurance. They have a monthly fuel allowance as well. So if you're ready to take your career to the next level, then visit them at allcitytowing.com and just search career. All City Towing, where your future is on the move. All right. Speaking of on the move, we'll get into that next as we got some football news to pass along. Of course, Deion Sanders and Jeremy Pruitt are in the news. It's Roc and Manuch with Jimmy B here from Wright Toyota, ESPN Radio, 620.
Come visit the all-new Wecopa Casino Resort, formerly Fort McDowell Casino. Whether you're visiting for slots, table games, the Valley's favorite bingo hall, golf, or food, our new smoke-free casino resort is the place to be. Enjoy a fine dining experience like no other at Ember, or go for the lively crowd at WKP Sportsbook and Bar. Wecopa offers 2 top 10 golf courses in the state, and a resort with heated pools and cabanas is the perfect place to relax. Come experience Wecopa.
Rock, are we still thinking of coming out here with the Rocky theme?
Join the team.
Sweet.
Company in the state, All City Towing. We're hiring dispatchers, call takers, lot attendants, drivers, and customer service personnel. Enjoy benefits like the state's most advanced towing equipment, set work schedules.
Live from Wright Toyota, right on the corner, right on the front.
Mics are hot.
Toyota, located at 77th Street and Frank Lloyd Wright Boulevard in Scottsdale. Now back to the guys on ESPN 620.
All right, on this day in 1977, Rocky won the Best Picture at the Oscars 48 years ago. Wow.
Long time. He didn't win the Best Actor, but they got the best.
He was a terrible actor.
He was,
He's
you
awful.
realize
He's in all the movies. Cliffhanger. He's terrible.
Yeah, and what was the movie before that? He was the guys, all those guys in New Jersey, a bunch of Thugs. He was in that Henry Winkler. There's a lot of guys prior to their careers. But the thing, he sat on this script for almost like 3 or 4 years before he finally got somebody to basically, take him on and promote this. I think their budget was maybe $1 million that they had to make. Now look at it, all-time classic.
I was at this celebrity wine and spirits event in Bend, Oregon last September, and Sylvester Stallone's brother, who you see on E! Or some other shows, looks just like him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he has a bourbon. That's why he was there. Really nice guy.
Yes.
But the same mannerisms as his brother.
Oh, I'm sure.
It was just pretty cool. 1973, Wilt Chamberlain played his last pro basketball game. Then it was an NBA record streak of 1,045 games without a disqualification.
Can you imagine that, playing that many games and not fouling out as a center?
That's amazing.
And that's also fouling out and ejecting.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. 1990, Michael Jordan scores 69 points as the Bulls beat the Cavs in overtime. It was the 4th time he had scored 60 points in a game. 2012, the NFL's new rule for postseason overtime expanded to cover the regular season on a 30-2 vote by the NFL owners. All the games that go into overtime cannot end on a field goal on the first possession.
So hopefully when the owners meet, is it the next week, Rock, they meet, they'll have if the team gets the kickoff in overtime, goes down and scores, they're now going to allow the other team to go down at least score versus before if you scored a touchdown, the other team never had a chance to get the ball. So for many playoff games, Buffalo Bills included, that they didn't get a chance to have the opportunity to go down that score. So hopefully the owners will approve that, and we'll see at least you have a chance to go down and tie the game.
All right, last one, 7 years ago, 2018, LeBron James tied Michael Jordan's NBA record of 866 consecutive games with 10 or more points. Now, this streak is still alive today. If you recall, just 2 nights ago against the Bulls, he did not play well, but he did get more than 10 points. He's sitting at 1,285. How about that?
That's amazing. I mean, that just talk about consistency throughout a career. I mean, for so many years to get that minimum of points and to basically have that continue after your career. And even at 40, 41 years old, he was a little hobbled, but he ended up winning the game for him at the very end.
All right, so football at 50, just 2 seasons into Coach Prime's stop in Denver, or I should say in Boulder, with the Buffaloes. 13-12 under Sanders. Of course, he improved to 9-4 in 2024 last season, following the 4-8 record the year before. But he is getting paid. The Board of Regents there have decided to extend him. He'll make $10 million this coming year, with the salary increasing to $12 million in 2019. So this new 5-year deal is around $54 million. He had originally signed a 5-year, $29.5 million deal, but now he is going to be up there we've seen different reports. I've seen the latest report is he is 4th. Now, a report that we had when we started the show, he was tied for 8th. So I don't know who to believe. At the end of the day, he's top 10. That's all you need to worry about. One thing that he is doing is he recently announced the desire to start a new trend in college football, which I think is going to go over really well, and that is to organize spring game practices with other Power 4 opponents. So it looks as though Colorado and Syracuse have requested permission from the NCAA to conduct this type of game or this type of spring practice. It has not yet been officially approved, but it's out there. I can't imagine why it wouldn't. I'm just anxious to see how he's going to do without his son and his Heisman Trophy winner, Travis Hunter.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, how well he recruited, as far as we understand, he's got a pretty good quarterback in the wings.
There's Julian Lewis.
Yeah, and then as far as the portal, they say, whoever they is, all the pundits say, he did a good job of not only recruiting the high school kids, junior college kids, but he also did a good job in the portal. But you're right, Rock. I mean, Shedeur Sanders, his son, he knew that offense inside and out at Jackson State and then also here at Colorado. And Hunter, the same thing. The one thing he wanted to focus on, though, was offensive line and defensive line. So, here you got this big contract for another 5 years. He's your guy. If he can take this team to the next level, i.e. win a Big 12 championship or be in the hunt every year and then win it all, then you might see that that number in 3 or 4 years, 3 years, tear this up, extend him to be one of the highest paid college coaches.
If you're a Kent State alum, I almost was. I flipped the coin between Kent State and Ohio U, where I went to school, Ohio. They have put their head coach, Kenny Burns, on administrative leave. A statement that came out yesterday was that no details on why. Now, it's interesting because he was 1-23 in 2 seasons for the Golden Flashes, 0-12 last season, the 5th time in school history that they've gone winless. He was a pretty good coach. A lot of people liked him when he was at Minnesota prior to Kent State, but they have let him go, and on administrative leave, the offensive coordinator, Mark Carney, is going to get the opportunity to do the on-field stuff, and then they have an executive deputy AD that's going to do the administrative stuff for the football program. So a head-scratcher with this one.
Yeah, when it's immediate like this, obviously the administration.
This weekend is spring practice.
Yes, it starts, and you go, wow, something must have happened, or they must have investigated, because a lot of these administrative leaves with pay don't happen unless you've got the goods, or there's enough there to put your coach on the sideline, which they're doing. So it's administrative leave. They're continuing to pay him. The new OC, as you mentioned, will take over for spring football. And then whatever they decipher or find out, it could be worse. If there's some things here that they're not letting us go, that they dive into even more so, then they might let him go. But I didn't realize 1-23 in 2 years. I'm like, Kent State? I thought that they had decent recruiting in that area. They just can't.
It's a Mid-America Conference.
Yeah.
Decent recruiting.
No, who does have decent recruiting is Michigan. Now, their quarterback competition is open for spring practice. And a guy that I just saw on this, and I think he's a local, Mikey Keene.
Yeah, Mikey Keene
is up for the possibility to be the next starting quarterback at Michigan. He's up against this guy named Bryce Underwood and Jaden Davis. But Mikey Keene.
Yeah, Mikey Keene was at Chandler. Then he was at UCF originally. He went to Fresno State. Really played very good at Fresno State. So I'm surprised he transferred.
Well,
so
Michigan.
That's as I get to.
Well, it was weird too because he transferred after Bryce Underwood signed that $15 million NIL deal.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think what Mikey's thinking is, hey, look, I've done all I can do at Fresno State, which he played well. Goes to Michigan. If he's going to play or start at Michigan, he's got a chance to see. I don't believe that if you've got talent, the eyeballs of scouts, they'll see you wherever you're at. So now maybe he wants to prove he can go compete, and he can.
3 minutes
versus the bigger competition week in and week out.
So I think that's all BS.
Well, I think if you got talent,
he's getting paid.
Well, I don't know what kind of money.
I think that's where it is.
Backup quarterback in college for that amount of money at Michigan is
making
not
$1 million bucks. Not bad.
He's probably making twice as much as he made as a starter at Fresno State.
Yeah, being in the Big Ten, national championship 2 years ago.
I'm not blowing it off. I'm just thinking it's a great opportunity.
It sucks,
but I mean,
the sport sucks right now with that.
And
what's on the field's great, but what's going on off the field, it just absolutely sucks.
Well, Fresno State, look at them. They had a decent year last year, I believe. Last 2 years with Mikey there as their quarterback. And I know what he wants to do. He goes, hey, to improve my status, make a few extra bucks. But if he wants to play pro ball, to go play against the best of the best, and then enhance his standing as a quarterback, he's going to have to start. I think he's got maybe 2 years left. 1 year left?
1 year left.
Yeah, 1 year left. Mikey, outstanding young man. I remember Mikey out there. I'd be training my guys, and he'd be with Rudy Carpenter when he was like 7 or 8 years old. And to see these guys 7, 8 years old now, to how far they've gone, it's fun to see them move and go as far as they have.
Since we're talking college football, news during the week, not a lot of people talked about Stanford firing their head coach, Troy Taylor, at a kind of a weird time.
Well,
is that Andrew Luck with the whole AD thing too?
That's why. So when the AD stepped down, and that's the same situation you're seeing in Maryland. When an AD hires you and then he's gone, you don't know what your future holds. It's so important, or not so important, but you see more scenarios where the AD is hooked to the head coach. So
here, and the other side of that too is that he was allegedly he had some misrepresentations as far as the way he's talked to some of the female administrators and coaches. So when Andrew Luck got there, he investigated, and they said, okay, this is the goods we have on you. So Andrew Luck let him go based on some of those things that have happened, I guess, over the last 3 weeks. But again, right before spring I should say spring camp.
It's a weird time to get
It
fired.
is, yeah.
And it's interesting how Andrew Luck is basically he's the AD.
He's the AD
He's
slash
the acting
GM,
AD with Bernard
whatever.
Muir. You know, and
Tag he's it.
and we've had Bernard Muir, who's the AD. We were classmates, and he was just basically retiring. And and I think we'll get him on in a couple months. I didn't want to
30
bring him on
seconds.
right away, but we'll bring him on and talk to him about what went on at Stanford. Did you get out because of the NIL and the transfer portal and just Stanford? It's just that's more of an academic school and you can't compete. I don't know.
Might be all the above.
You still got to get the kids in there. So anyway, we got hour number 2 coming up. We're out here at Wright Toyota. Appreciate you hanging out with us. It's Roc and Manuch with Jimmy B right here on ESPN 620.
It's Roc and Manuch with Jimmy B now on ESPN 620, 98.7 FM HD2, and streaming live at arizonasports.com. The guys are powered by the law offices of Lerner and Rowe. In a wreck and need a check? Make one call, that's all. 602-977-1900. And now on your ESPN station in Phoenix, ESPN 620, Roc and Manuch with Jimmy B.
Sports villains in sports. How do you identify a villain in sports? I mean, I think there's a lot of ways you can do that. One is truly being unlikable to the masses, and you're having enough success and relevancy to keep you in the headlines. You can also just put sports villain, look it up in the dictionary, and you'll see Dan Hurley.
Yeah. For now, the new one, the new sports villain.
Yeah, so I think he is the guy that has taken this over. From what he did after the loss, when UConn's loss, went after this reporter, and you heard him when he left the court and the things that he said or what you're allowed to say. And I know their SID, their director of communications, was trying to get the video removed, and they wouldn't remove it, and all this stuff that went out, and you hear him, on just basically, some people call him, a crybaby,
hothead.
Yeah, and I think he's pretty easy to root against. But in his defense, he defends his behavior. Sure. He doesn't necessarily have to apologize, and he doesn't apologize. This is who he is, and he wears his
heart on his sleeve.
Yeah, and some people love that. Some people love that. But it kind of got us into this thought process that, when you look at current other sports villains in sports, with the Chiefs dynasty, so-called dynasty until Philly beat them, the Chiefs may have been on that, on that list, at least to a point, because there are a lot of people that didn't like Taylor Swift being along for the ride. Okay, so people got upset about that. You can go back to the Patriots, but that's too long ago. I personally think the biggest villain right now is Aaron Rodgers.
Good choice. Wow, very good.
Because what he
fits
does
the
off
bill.
the field, he's an outstanding quarterback. We know he's got that. I think every sport has that villain. I think LeBron James was for a while.
Sure, he was. Yeah,
I think you could put him down there. Draymond Green.
Sure.
He was one that was on top of it for a while.
He was.
And he kind of sometimes gets into it because of his podcast. Baseball, I don't know if there really is anybody in baseball. There's nobody that I really think of in baseball
Nowadays.
that's
I don't
playing.
Yeah.
There's no A-Rod. There's nobody out there, right? But I would say for college basketball or college football, we got, we're gonna throw Dan Hurley in the basketball.
Sure.
College basketball. Kirby Smart. I mean, he's got 24 players in the last 2 years have been arrested.
Yeah, that's one side of it.
And he's the highest paid coach in college football, making $13 million a year.
But you classify him as a villain because of his players.
You keep seeing his players get arrested.
Yeah,
and you got to take the blame for that, don't you?
Well, yeah, you do. Oh, totally. You're the guy in charge. But I look at that and go, okay, it always seems that that's rectified one with the other. But if he's what you're insinuating is, hey, he's getting all these guys to get in trouble, he's paying them off, and then winning championships, then I could see that spin as far as that's concerned.
I think Angel Reese was a villain a year ago.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Sure. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
She has plenty of fans, but she had a lot of success and a lot of haters.
Well, a lot of harassing.
Yeah.
And a lot of harassing I felt was that.
You think there's any
there you go.
Any villains in golf?
Well, there was Bryson DeChambeau. I think any of the players that went over to the LIV,
that first major, that Masters.
Yes.
Everyone was rooting
what's
against.
His name with the really beautiful wife?
Brooks Koepka.
Yeah, Brooks Koepka. Everybody knows. That's all you got to say. Yeah, I mean.
With the beautiful wife.
Is it?
Well, I know. It's true, though.
Don't you think Phil's the new villain in golf? Has he made the
Phil
switch?
is non-relevant. When was the last time you heard about Phil Mickelson?
Well, last week it was in a LIV tournament. Yeah, I saw that. But I mean,
how do you do?
The last time you heard about Phil, I think, was that first Masters when LIV was a thing. Because remember, he finished, I think, top 10 or top 20, and Tiger Woods didn't even make the cut. And that was a whole story.
But I mean, overall, golf, nobody likes him now. I mean, he's a villain.
Well, I think if we had this conversation 2 years ago, yes. Okay, when the LIV was kind of.
So you think he's more non-relevant now?
I don't even. I'm huge into golf. I'm going to the PGA. I'm going to the British Open. I go to I love golf more than any other sport. I don't hear anything about Phil Mickelson.
I think he's just they're strictly live right now. Now, would he get invited to the Masters for next week? He has to,
because
right?
he won.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So let's go back in time though. If we were going to look at
there's
some
several
old school,
there.
I mentioned Alex Rodriguez.
Yeah, A-Rod, absolutely.
With all the allegations using performance-enhancing drugs, and I think you throw him in there. The guy that I really think is high up there in basketball, Bill Laimbeer.
Oh, by far.
How about that?
When you say villain,
the cheap shots.
Oh,
the way he played.
absolutely.
He was clearly a villain.
Oh, and he did stuff on purpose. Just matter of fact, when you think back those Boston Celtics series in the Big East final, to get kicked out on purpose, and they had him mic'd up. He goes, "Did he get kicked out?" Larry Bird. Bird got ejected. He goes, "I did my job." So a lot of it was intentional. That's a great one, Bill Laimbeer.
Let me see. I'm jumping around a little bit. I'm just kind of throwing some of these.
Can I throw it out there?
Yeah, please.
How about Danny Ainge?
Yeah, unless he was on your team.
Yes.
Being a Sixers fan myself, and when he was a Celtic, I couldn't stand him. But then when he was a Phoenix Suns, because of
You
Phoenix
loved
Suns
him.
fan, loved him.
You loved him.
There's a lot of those guys that you can't stand, like the Bobby Hurley, not Bobby Hurley. Oh gosh, what's the guy's name for San Antonio? He was a Suns killer.
Oh, big shot, Bob. I know you're talking about. Or is it Ori? Was it? No,
Yeah. Ori.
Robert Ori.
Robert Ori.
Yeah,
thank you.
Robert Ori. Yeah, he was a knucklehead. The hip check of Steve Nash into the dasher board.
Yeah.
That whole thing.
Try to see some other ones. I think you could put a bunch of commissioners in there.
Oh,
I think
yeah,
you could put Bud Selig in there. I think you put David Stern in there. Some may think Roger Goodell and Gary Bettman are on that list. Skip Bayless.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a screamer, right? And he says it the way he feels, and
3 minutes.
I used to be the biggest Stephen A. Smith fan.
Mm-hmm.
I think Stephen A. has gotten too big, and
he's gotten out there. I think if maybe in 6 months, I think you put Stephen A. there. Yeah. Let me ask. Would you have considered going back in boxing, Muhammad Ali as a villain?
No.
I mean,
I would put Don King.
Well, Don King.
Definitely. I mean, he's singly responsible for the downfall of boxing. I mean, he was a promoter of fights. We all know that.
Mm-hmm.
It's all he ever did, but it was all about him, and him and Mike Tyson and everything that he did. And I believe he swindled Tyson out of millions of dollars over the years, somewhere like $14-15 million. And he worked with Muhammad Ali. He worked with Larry Holmes, Terry Norris, Tim Witherspoon. I mean, he worked with a lot of them. I mean, the guy was convicted in 1966 second-degree murder for shooting someone.
Would you consider Floyd Mayweather nowadays
2 minutes
as a villain, so to speak?
I would even put him in, not necessarily, what he said about Manny Pacquiao. Remember there was some article that went out, and he really ripped Manny Pacquiao on some things. Remember when that stupid fight between Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather Jr.? I think that was terrible. But you can't deny his talent. I mean, he was amazing. But he was convicted. He was convicted on 2 counts of domestic violence, misdemeanor battery of 2 women in a nightclub, assaulting his girlfriend. He's been he fled a scene in Vegas for a shooting. I mean, again, then he was arrested in charge with 3 other misdemeanors, and then his rap sheet.
Yes, that's a rap sheet. Yeah,
and I only got some of it.
That is an ultimate rap sheet.
Let me throw this one at you. Bobby Petrino, Falcons head coach.
Yeah,
resigned. 13 games.
Interesting.
Because he gets blown out on Monday night.
Yeah,
he quits.
About a minute left.
Okay,
a minute.
And then the whole thing that happened in Arkansas, that was a big problem.
Sure.
I mean, I think you could make a case you could put him. I think now time has healed that, but he makes the list.
I would think so. Yeah, having the girlfriend on the back of the bike on the wipeout there, and then having to go explain that to your wife, not real good.
There was an era there when the Miami Heat was clearly when it was LeBron and crew.
Sure,
people hated him.
Yeah,
the biggest team villain it's unquestionable. The New England Patriots. And I know you and New England Patriots hate it, but come on. Spygate, Deflategate. I mean, I could go on, and Tom Brady and all that kind of stuff.
Well, and football, basketball-wise, you alluded to Bill Laimbeer. It was the Pistons when they were the villains of the NBA for so many years, just because of their antics. You talk about Laimbeer, and nobody really liked Isaiah, and I mean, they had a phenomenal team. Don't get me wrong, but villainous-wise, it was them. And to that, your point, football, yeah, the Patriots because they're winning all the time. But those little Spygates and Deflategates and
all
these things here and there added to that.
Hey, I want to tell you here on Fridays at Twin Peaks, if you celebrate Lent, or not celebrate, but observe Lent, is probably more appropriate. You could grab a beer, some batter fish and chips. They have them at all 5 locations. They got a pretty cool deal right now. You can score the fish and chips bundle with a 22-ounce Miller Lite or Coors Light for just $14. They're doing that through Easter. If you're not a drinker, you can grab an iced tea or soda, and it's just $12. So if you want to take advantage of the fish and chip bundles at Twin Peaks, there's 5 Valley locations. Scott Spreitzer going to join us in about 10 minutes. We got our locks. We're going to have Mike Adris, the former NAU head basketball coach, sit in with us here at Wright Toyota in the 3 o'clock hour. You'll want to stick around for that. We'll continue on. It's Roc and Manuch, Jimmy B, right here on ESPN 620.
It's Friday, And the guys are live from Wright Toyota. Right on the corner, right on the price. Wright Toyota, located at 77th
Make it Mike's up.
Wright Boulevard in Scottsdale. Now back to the guys on ESPN 620.
All right, this one's kind of a head scratcher. The Memphis Grizzlies fired their head coach today, Taylor Jenkins, despite being the number 5 seed in the Western Conference. 9 regular season games to go before the playoffs start, and they fire him. How does that happen? You're 44-29. You have the same record as the Lakers. Lakers do hold the head-to-head. But you fire Jenkins after they lost to Oklahoma City.
Mm-hmm.
They're 5-5 in the last 10 games. You're in a decent position right now for the playoffs, and you fire him. Now, he has been there a long time, since 2019. And, he's got 250 wins, which is the most coaching wins in that franchise history. But there must be something going on because, I don't know, maybe some of the players aren't getting along with him, or how does this happen?
Well, I agree with you, right? It sounds like when you read the story, a couple different versions of it, is a lot of that losing the locker room speech. Losing the locker room. You mentioned they've only won 50% of their last 10 games, 5-5. They lost last night. But I'm still miffed. If it ain't broke, don't fix it unless the players.
Well, it was broke.
Well, obviously, unless the players might have gone to the owner or the general manager and said, look, some of the things we're doing just aren't jiving the way we want to go. Think about this. John Morant was out last year. And for them to turn it around this year with this coach and this coaching staff and to see this happen, they're firing him because of there may be some things that they don't like with this coach or this coaching staff, and to put him out there. I've never seen this ever, a coach getting fired with a winning record this close to the playoffs, 9 games to go because of, I don't know, players don't like him, don't like his coaching methods. Whatever it is just mystifying. And I always love that proverbial, we want to thank Coach for all of his contributions to the team and where we've got and all the things he's done the last many years. And by the way, thank you so much for getting us into the playoffs after having this down year last year. It just amazes me that this would happen with this owner. Somebody must have got to the GM. So whatever's going on in that locker room or these players isn't jiving whatsoever.
I don't even know how to respond to this.
I don't either. It's like,
I'm trying to find, I'm almost at the end of the internet. I cannot find a reason why they parted ways with him. The timing, it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, unless there's something more that they don't want to divulge.
Fifth place.
Yeah.
You're in 5th place in the Western Conference.
And how bad could it be with, the disgruntled players and your coach when you're going to the playoffs and you got a damn good position? Like your point, you're 5th place. And, you look at some of the things as far as this team is concerned. They're winning on the road. They're winning away. They're like close to 500. Yeah, this is probably something deeper than we're aware of, and this might be the easy way for the ownership to let them out.
So here's the president GM, Zach Kleeman, who, and this is a news release. This is a quote. I'm genuinely appreciative of Taylor's contributions to this team and to the city over the past 6 seasons. This was a difficult decision, given the consistent and tangible development of our players and overall success under Taylor's leadership. I wish Taylor the very best going forward. Close quote. I think there has to be something that's going to come out.
Sure.
And
I would think so. It has to be.
Like something personal, something that's he did or didn't do, or allegedly. I'm not going to speculate, but you know where I'm going with it.
Rock, it almost – now this the thing with Mike Budenholzer being replaced by Doc Rivers was early in the year. A couple years ago, they just come off the NBA title, right? And Budenholzer gets let go. Was it a year and a half after that? They didn't make to the finals the following year. Then Budenholzer gets let go like, I don't know, 3-4 weeks, a month or so into the season. Doc Rivers, who I believe is doing the broadcast for the Bucks, he puts him in place. And it's like, wait a second. You just had a guy that took you to the NBA title a year and a half ago. Now you're letting him go because of disgruntled players. Remember, a lot of that was Giannis and some of the guys that liked the way he's coaching or whatever it was, and they let him go. And then Doc Rivers took over. He struggled for 2 months. Then they got back to playoffs. This year they're kind of back on par where they have been. But this whole thing, if it's true about the disgruntled players or don't like the way he's coaching, at least that was the word coming out of the Milwaukee Bucks locker room about Mike Budenholzer.
So they have an interim coach.
5 minutes,
Their
5
assistant
minutes.
coach Tomas. I don't even know how to say his last name. He was a Finland coach. Came in last year. Some other names that are being thrown around is Sam Cassell, the Celtics assistant coach. Kevin Young, the BYU head basketball coach who just lost last night in the Sweet 16 to the Crimson Tide. He just made the jump to college.
Yes.
And,
last year.
he's got deep ties. Of course, he was assistant coach for the Phoenix Suns. Frank Vogel, who is a consultant right now for the Mavs, and Mike Brown, formerly of the Sacramento Kings, who was fired earlier this year.
He'd be a great
27th.
choice. He'd be Mike Brown.
Yeah, I think, that's what's going to probably happen.
I can't believe he got fired by Sacramento. I mean, they're fighting for their lives for the play-in, but that's why you think of Fox wanted to get traded.
4 minutes.
Once he got fired, Fox was like, I'm out. Get rid of me. And they trade him over to San Antonio. So you look at some of these coaches, Vogel, defensive guru, didn't see that with the Suns. But you got a guy like Brown who's a proven winner to go to straighten out whatever the situation is. But right now, rocked away players, the dog, the tail wags the dog. These guys don't like what they're talking about. Think about this. Think of when Westhead won the NBA title with the LA Lakers.
Oh, I remember that.
And then Magic wasn't happy with practices, the way things were. They fire a guy that just won an NBA title.
Yeah.
And they bring in Pat Riley.
Great memory. Yeah.
I mean, that's incredible. But that's just seems like the way the NBA, or if that locker room, you're not adhering to them or you're saying some things they don't like to hear, obviously this, at least what we're reading, seems like this could be disgruntled basketball players.
You calling out the Westhead deal?
3 minutes. 3 minutes.
Working today, and you get a star to put on your refrigerator. You are the player.
Do I get 5 gold stars or just
5
1?
gold stars? Hey, Suns tonight will hope to end their 3-game losing streak as they're in Minnesota, 5 o'clock on 98.7 Arizona Sports. Timberwolves have won 7 of 10 in the last
7 in a row.
7-3, yes. And they've won 7 in a row against the Phoenix Suns. Suns are 6-4 in their last 10. Anthony Edwards, who if he didn't play for Minnesota, if he played for like LA or New York,
my God,
I think he can. LeBron James said it. He could be the next face
He
of
sure
the NBA.
could. Yeah, and he's a Suns killer on top of it.
Oh my gosh!
He's
averaging close to 27 points the last 10 games.
How about
is just
that?
on fire.
He is, but look at it. I mean, Dallas won again last night. Sacramento won. Suns now in 11th place of the play-in situation.
But the Suns have 2 players that are playing pretty hot too.
Yeah, they are.
I mean, Kevin Durant's playing the best he's ever played for this team.
KD,
he's like 27 points a game.
Best he's played I think the last 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, he seems like he's rejuvenated.
Oh my gosh, he is balling right now.
And kind of quietly, maybe not quietly, but Devin Booker, he's 25.5.
Yeah, well, they're both
in the last 10.
I think
both of them are playing really well.
Those two are doing the best they can do. I really believe they are.
Without Beal.
And without Bill, exactly. And the other thing too is the thing that's killing this Suns team. They are one of the highest, if not the highest, scoring team in the league. But they're also the worst as far as giving up points. It's the turnovers that are killing them. They gave up another 27 points again the other night. Well, 2 nights ago. But then they got smoked by the Celtics. But they're giving up points after points on the the 3-ball differential. The Suns, I think it was 27 points just on the 3-ball differential. On just the turnovers, add another 22, 23 points. How do you make up 40-some points in a game? You can't when you're not making 3-point shots.
By the way, it was good to see the Lakers go down yesterday with Josh Giddey's half-court.
How about that?
How great was that? I mean, they were up. The Lakers were up 5 points with 12 seconds to go.
Have audio if you want.
Make the 3-pointer. They make 3 3-pointers in a row, and then Josh fires off this buzzer beater to win the game.
this one. Keep for the win. Awesome. I can't believe this. I'm telling you, baby.
47 foot.
He gave you Elizabeth. I'm coming to you.
Good call.
That's a Fred Sanford reference there, Gex, just so you know.
That is
Sanford and Son.
It's just amazing how much energy they have. Their team is so bad this season.
I know.
Regular season, and those broadcasters just brought it, man.
They're pros. They're absolute.
That was.
pros.
I wonder how long he sat on that one right there.
Yeah, he hasn't had that many opportunities to do that. So that was Chicago Sports Tonight, I believe. So anyway, good stuff. Hey, we are looking forward to our next guest. Scott Spreitzer is going to join us. Scott, of course, is from DocSports.com. He's been coming on our program for close to 20 years, and he is going to handicap the second part of the Sweet 16 tonight. Ole Miss, Michigan State, Kentucky versus Tennessee. He'll give us the Michigan-Auburn take and Purdue and Houston. If we have time, we'll see if we can get an early handicap on Texas Tech versus Florida on Saturday and Bama versus Duke. All these games, for the most part, with the exception of Ole Miss and Michigan State, are 4.5 or more. Some are even close to 8.5 to 10. So we'll get into that next. It's Roc and Manuch, Jimmy B, right here on ESPN 620.
Here's Scott Spreitzer, exclusively on with Roc and Manuch with Jimmy B.
Make it Mike's Hot.
620.
All right, the second half of the Elite Eight is underway in just about an hour or so, hour and a half. Florida, Texas Tech, and Duke and Alabama are in. We have 4 more games tonight, and Scott joins us. Scott, how'd you do yesterday?
Had one play last night, guys. That was it. I had Arizona, and it wasn't looking good early, but at the end of the night, it cashed the ticket, losing by 7, getting 9.5. So I was happy about that. You know, the big dance, a.k.a. the Duke Invitational this year, guys.
Oh, geez. Oh, Duke Invitational. Cooper Flagg is just amazing. This kid just put on a show, didn't he? All right, let's talk about number 6, Ole Miss, playing against number 2, Michigan State. Minus 3.5 Michigan State. How you like this one? This is the lowest spread of the night, looks like.
Yeah, I lean Michigan State here, and that total's gone up. It's been bumped up a little. It was like down to 143 like 24, 36 hours ago, and it's kind of come up a little bit. I would lean more towards the under in that. Also like Mich State. Tickets were split down the middle with Michigan State starting to get the money this past Tuesday. The line went as high as 4.5 and as low as 3, and most books now at 3.5. Both coaches are outstanding, obviously, in big dance action. Chris Beard, 8-1, spread run in the dance. Izzo as a favorite in the big dance. How about 44-9 straight up, 32-19-2 against the spread. And number 1 and number 2 seeds have really taken care of business in this spot over the last few tourneys when we get to this round. I don't like the Rebels' work on the glass, guys. Michigan State's great on the glass at both ends of the floor. They're 5th in points per 100 possessions allowed. They're number 1 against the three-pointer and did all of that against a top 30 strength of schedule. So tough to go against Sparty. I think they come through tonight.
You got number 3, Kentucky, taking on number 2, Tennessee. Last time I looked, it was Tennessee minus 4.5, Scott.
Yeah, it's basically 5. There are some 4.5s, but a lot of 5s out there now as people are jumping on the Vols. But, you know, they went from 4 to 4.5 a couple of days ago, and now, again, it's kind up to as high as 5. And they've been getting both the tickets and the money. It's like the public and the sharps are agreeing on Tennessee here. Kentucky won both meetings this season. The third meeting of the dance has not happened much over the last decade. One of the committee rules is that these teams can't play each other in the early round, so it takes a late tourney matchup for the potential meeting, and so it hasn't mattered really a revenge factor when it comes to the big dance. It is worth noting that the underdog has not only covered the last 7 meetings between these two, but they won all 7 outright. And Tennessee was a 10-point favorite at home to Kentucky and a 3.5-point favorite at Kentucky this season, and they lost both. Rick Barnes got his team here, but his teams have covered just 6 of 24 big dance appearances. And Tennessee comes in with the 3rd best perimeter defense, so you got to factor that into the mix. You had Kentucky making all those threes in each of the 2 meetings this season. It's a slight lean. Now, Michigan State I bet on, just to let you know, this game is a slight lean on the Kentucky Wildcats plus the points, even though they won the 2 regular season meetings.
All right, our Jimmy B, our number 3, he's not on Fridays, but he's got Michigan in the Final Four, and he's actually leading one of the top guys in our bracket contest. Michigan, Auburn, minus 8.5.
Yeah, I like Michigan plus the points a bit here, but I don't know that, I would jump on them outright. You look at net ratings, Auburn is there's 4 teams this year, it's crazy, that are in the same net rating category as UConn was last year. UConn was the only team with a net rating 36, 35 in that neighborhood. And one thing about this, you're talking about Auburn having a net rating of 35.1. Michigan's is 23.3. That's a huge difference when you start categorizing not only how teams have done offensively and defensively, but who they've done it against, where it was played, points per 100 possessions scored and allowed, all that stuff. And that makes it a little bit scary for me to back the upset here outright. But I do think Michigan can hang this number and keep it a little bit closer than that line. If you look at, Sweet 16 favorites of more than 4.5 points over the years, last 7 tourneys, they've been a bankroll burner. Those teams have not fared well against the spread, and that would go against Auburn here. I looked at Michigan the other day. I'm watching the game. They outscored the Aggies 25-9 down the stretch. They played a ton of close games. They've won 13 games by 2 or fewer buckets. And I saw one article that said that's the first time in 30 years that a team's won that many games by 2 or fewer buckets. And also what I like about Michigan, they can defend Janai Broome with 1 player. Most teams have to double him. So I do think Michigan keeps this closer, so maybe he gets his outright win with the Wolverines.
All right, Scott, you got number 4 Purdue taking on number 1 Houston. Houston minus 8.5. I mean, if there's I would never say there's ever a sure bet, but this might be something that leans toward a sure bet, almost, maybe, kind of, sort of.
Oh,
I can't say it.
yeah. I knew you couldn't. No way.
I had Purdue against High Point, and then of course they beat McNeese, and we covered when they went up against High Point, but they had won just 3 of 9 before beating those 2 teams in the tournament. And listen, this team is they're not strong when it comes to their depth. They don't have the talent as far as depth is concerned like they did the last couple of years. They're 341st in the nation defending the 2-pointer, which means one of Houston's so-called weaknesses, if you want to split hairs, is their 2-point shooting. But I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal here. And we saw against a very good Gonzaga team, a couple of guys, including Cryer, step up for Houston and hit the big shots when needed, no matter where they had the ball and where they were shooting from. So that's a great sign for the Cougars. They're so darn good on defense. The offense looks better by the game. And they're like men among boys when they take the floor most nights. It's nonstop harassment of the opponent's ball handlers. They force turnovers, take teams out of their comfort zone. Number 1 in the nation in points per game allowed. They allow less than 20 made field goals per game, Houston. I think they get the job done tonight by double digits.
Scott Spreitzer joining us here on Roc and Manuch. Jimmy B here on ESPN.
3 minutes. 3 minutes.
Phoenix. All right, let's, if you don't mind, let's go to tomorrow. The 2 games that are already set: Texas Tech, Florida, and Alabama, Duke. The Texas Tech, Florida looks like it's still hasn't had much movement on the line. I know Bama and Duke line has moved a little bit, but let's start with Texas Tech and Florida.
Yeah, I lean towards Florida here, guys. These teams that hit shots in the closing seconds of the big dance, a la Maryland in their second round win, then they lost to Florida. Those teams have only won like 2 of the last 10 times after they hit a late game shot to win a game in advance. And we know what the Red Raiders did on Thursday. It wasn't a last second shot, but it was in the final 10 seconds. And they had a couple of the really bad runs against them. And that's happened in the tournament. Against Wilmington, they were on the wrong end of a big run, but they overcame it. And then against Arkansas, they get outscored at one point like 15-2 by 10-0 at another point. But Arkansas isn't Florida on the offensive end of the floor, and they couldn't take advantage of those runs, and the Red Raiders, give them all the credit in the world, came back and got the win. But it's a red flag to me to see Tech on the wrong side of these massive runs in multiple games in the tourney. Little concerned about Alex Condon for the Gators. He did hurt his ankle. He came back late against Maryland and ended up, I think, 6 or 7 points. But I am concerned about how his ankle reacts with just a day off between games. But I got to back the Gators here, guys. I think they're going to be too strong. And again, I think Texas Tech, boy, they really had to really exert themselves. And I'm not sure 2 days later they can bring that energy for an entire 40 against a very good Gators team.
All right, the game I'm going to be love watching. Number 2 Bama taking on number 1 Duke. Looks like Duke minus 6.5. Is the over/under high enough for this, Scott? 173.5. This will be what, 195 like the U of A Duke game yesterday?
Yeah, it's funny because when you look at this matchup and you're thinking if
about a minute and a half.
Be a 108 to 102 type of game, right? If Bama gets to play their speed, because Duke can play at that game and win. But if Duke is blowing Bama out, it's going to be a Duke game, which isn't quite as breakneck. And that's what concerned me. I originally thought about playing Duke over their team total, which is 90.5 right now. And I thought, they could just clamp down on Alabama with all that Duke talent, and then you don't get there. You don't have that kind of game. And, again, like I said, we won with Arizona plus the points last night, but I did watch Duke open up a huge lead at different points of the game. My biggest concerns with Bama, they continue to play that breakneck basketball, and Duke can play at that speed or at half court, and that plays out in the metrics. They're number 1 in offensive adjusted efficiency, 5th on defense. They can nail threes all night long, the 9th most accurate team on the deep perimeter. And even though BYU was terrible from deep last night, Alabama's 345th in allowing high-quality threes according to a metrics-based company called Shot Quality. You can't be 345th in the country in allowing high-quality threes and expect to beat Duke.
Clear to wrap on my end. Clear to wrap.
This game gets up and down the floor like Bama wants. I think Duke covers. If it's slow, I think Duke covers. Guys, I like Duke. I look at if you look at the history of college basketball, even UConn last year, UConn doesn't even hardly come close to what Duke's net rating is. I just think Duke comes in here and beats them by 14, 15 points.
Oh, I hope you're right. Scott, thank you as always, man. Have a great weekend. We can't wait to talk to you next week.
Good luck, guys. Thanks.
That's Scott Spreitzer, DocSports.com. Check him out. He does baseball. He does every sport imaginable. And he's a great follow on Twitter X at Scott Wins. He's been with us for close to 20 years. And today he's brought to you by Twin Peaks, 5 Valley locations, Bud Light and Neutral. Watch all the madness at any of the 5 Valley Twin Peaks locations. Our locks of the week are coming up. You got some football news to pass along as well. We're out here at Wright Toyota. Appreciate you hanging out with us. It's Roc and Manuch with you today, along with Jackson Connor on ESPN 620.
It's time for the guys to give you their locks of the weekend. Whether it's on the football field, basketball court, or even the baseball diamond, Roc and Manuch with Jimmy B give their locks of the weekend to help put some money in your pockets. Now, the locks.
Jax?
Is this my turn to talk?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, rewind.
Jump in there and make it happen, Jax.
Well, us three didn't have a good week last week, but Connor, the lone lock champ, Oregon -6.5 against Liberty. I had Xavier +4.5 against Illinois. That loss. You had Michigan State -18.5 against Bryant. They did not cover, but they won. Rock had Oklahoma +6.5 against UConn, and it's crazy in the NCAA tournament. I don't have the number in front of me, but I think UConn has covered, I want to say, 18 straight NCAA tournament games.
All March, yeah.
Insane. So it's a new week. We're all got positive records outside of Manuch, who's 12-15, but hey, it's a new week.
It's always there's hope for the future.
It's just a brand new slate. So Rock, what's your lock for this week?
I'm all over Kentucky. Love it. 4. They're getting favored. They're getting to 4.5. So, with Tennessee lost both games, what Spreitzer just said, I'll leave it at that. Yeah. I'm not going to tell you how much I bet.
Just leave it at that, right? I'm going to go Houston minus 8.5 over Purdue. Their defense, their offense, Purdue has struggled. I mean, you never say for sure. You heard Scott Spreitzer. He will never use the term sure bet. But I feel pretty good that Houston is going to win this by more than 8.5 points over Purdue.
Yeah, luckily I put it on the lineup before Scott Spreitzer talked there. I like Duke minus 6.5. I think the one thing about Alabama, they're a high-volume, three-point shooting team. But if you can punch them in the mouth early, that really gets to their offense, and they miss a lot of shots. They just don't have the encouragement to kind of keep going in this game. I think Duke's going to beat them by a while. This team is just so fun to watch. I mean, Cooper Flagg, you can go on and on about the different players and Shire, and it's so cool for him in year 3 at Duke and transform, and people kind of gave him crap for his first 2 years not performing well in the tournament. It's always that third year, it seems like, Manuch, whether it's basketball or football, that coaches just get it all together. So that's my lock. Duke minus 6.5. Connor.
I'm going to be rolling with Auburn minus the 8.5 versus Michigan. A little backstory there. I don't think I ever had one of you guys result as bad as we did yesterday with Jimmy B when I gave Purdue minus my 8.5 or plus my 8.5 for my underdog. So I'm going Auburn purely just to see Michigan go down for Jimmy B.
I love it.
But he called him out yesterday too.
Yeah, he did. He was all over that as well too. But that's still it looks like Auburn's starting to get back to where they were early in the year. Remember how they struggled the last?
They are the number 1 overall seed in this tournament, and no one's talking about them.
Exactly. They're kind of quietly making it happen. But those are, you know what? You just in this tournament, you just never know. But it's with these the chalk, if you will, playing it should be some good basketball games.
Speaking of basketball, Maryland's Derek Queen inked a NIL deal with Dairy Queen. If you remember the center from Maryland, he signed an endorsement deal. It was before the game last night against Florida, but pretty smart, real smart. I mean, Dairy Queen.
If the shoe fits.
Yes,
absolutely.
It looks as though we mentioned the other day that ESPN, the Late Night Sports Center, is moving out of Los Angeles, and they are going to go back to Bristol. Now we're hearing that the NBA studio show, which is out of LA, after this year, will also go back to Bristol. So ESPN is bringing everybody home to Connecticut, which, I feel bad for some of these guys that, have to be working that night shift, the 3-hour time difference from, Pacific to East. You work in the, 1, 2, 3 a.m. shift, So we're hearing that the NBA is going to take a page out of the NHL when it comes to the Nations Face-Off, which was very successful. If you remember the 4 Nations Face-Off, Adam Silver told reporters yesterday they are considering adopting a national team format, which would be similar to what we saw in hockey, a country versus country competition, which could coincide with the All-Star game and Winter Olympics. They're trying to figure this all out, but I think there's a good possibility that that may happen. They need to do something.
Well, we talked about that, Rock, after how do you improve the All-Star game? International versus domestic. Make it competitive. Get your best of the U.S. versus the rest of the world and take each other on. When you're taking on a Luka and the Joker and all the stars that are out there, I mean, it could be a situation where the international beats the domestic guys. But I think that'd be competitive juices to have a good game.
And the NBA All-Star game next year is in Los Angeles. And it is at the same time as the Winter Olympics. NBC, which is now the new $77 billion media rights holder for the NBA, and the NBC is also broadcasting the Olympics. So get ready for a lot of cross promotion, which will be just too much. You'll have all the Olympics and the NBA All-Star game going at the same time on NBC.
Yeah, it's just interesting. For years, it was CBS, then NBA, ESPN, TNT. Now it's back to NBC. Now, I always, any of them you found, but it just seemed as though those NBC games and the music that you heard for so many years, but to have the Olympics and this going on, but I think it's Adam Silver's got to do something. I think the international versus the domestic would be the best way for this All-Star Games.
All right, here's your random fact for happy hour today. More people have walked on the moon, which is 12, than have scored an earned run off of
5
the
minutes.
legendary
5 minutes.
New York Yankees closer, Mariano Rivera.
Mariano Rivera. Really?
He had 11.
Damn. Really? I think he's pretty damn good, wasn't he?
Damn, what a note that is.
That's a hell of a stat right there.
By the way, pro golfer Pat Perez has listed his 9,700 square foot home in North Scottsdale, the mansion, with the black marble floors for sale at $12.75 million.
Just one of those big contracts. Maybe a prime time with that. His new contract can buy a home over here in Arizona.
Here's a hack for you. This is some useless knowledge here on a Friday. Someone's laundry hack is going viral. So a woman's boyfriend says the best way with detergent is to fill the cap with the liquid, then toss the whole thing with the cap, with that lid, into the washer.
This
4 minutes.
The cap
4
and all.
minutes.
Yeah.
No, I've never heard of that.
Well, you just did. It's a new hack. Supposedly, he's convinced that it's the way to do it.
Versus just pouring the liquid out, pouring it all the way
When
around.
you think about it, it's not a bad idea because it gets you. Who pours it in that thing anyway? You just pour it in, right?
Well, you must.
So you
yeah.
put it in the lid. You put it in the lid.
Throw
it in there. I mean, that's totally a bachelor thing, wouldn't it be?
It is. Yeah. So what are you going to cover it up with? Does he have not had the common sense to put the cap back on and put that liquid off to the side?
Well, they say that, you're supposed to rinse it after you, but shoot, just toss it in the wash.
Well, when the washroom starts to fill up, you're supposed to rinse it out.
I'll try it.
Do that.
What do you have to lose? I mean, it's not like you're going to put it in the dryer, so anyway, there you have it. Some random facts today. If you haven't heard earlier today, Deion Sanders has been paid. He got paid today. He signed a contract extension.
3 minutes. 3 minutes.
With the University of Colorado. It's a 5-year, $54 million deal. Makes him one of the highest paid coaches in college football. It's a real good extension for him. It's going to pay him nearly double his pay to $10 million this coming year and next. And then a figure jumps to $11 million in 2027 and 28. And then the final year, if it even makes it that long, I can't imagine him being there for another year, is $12 million.
Well, this
Coach
year,
Prime.
be a true litmus test, Rock, of not having his 2 stars on the team, Hunter and his son Shador, gone. What do you have left? Are you going to reload? Hopefully, don't rebuild when you put that kind of money out there and have what they say is a decent recruiting class. Got some portal guys. Mostly going after offensive linemen and defensive linemen, but I don't know who his home run hitters are. I don't know who his talent is. And
they lost 3 receivers, too.
They lost 3 receivers. The new kid quarterback.
2 minutes.
Pretty
2
decent,
minutes.
but you got to have weapons. And he's always prided himself on having weapons. He even mentioned this year that they got to do a better job offensive line-wise. And he said, we got to build defensively. So I think that a lot of folks were not giving him enough credit that he's at least there another 3 or 4 years, unless somebody wants to snatch him, Dallas Cowboys, whoever. But if he likes Boulder, he likes that atmosphere. Now, if he starts getting a little heat and starts losing, that's not going to help his NFL time at all.
It's kind of flying under the radar, and I don't think a lot of people care, except Manuch. The UFL's St. Louis Battlehawks and Houston Roughnecks are going to play tonight's season opener, despite a CBA, no collective bargaining agreement with the league. How about that?
Well, their agreement with the league is, here's your salary. This is what we'll cover. This is what we're going to do. And that CBA thing, I'm anxious to watch the Michigan Panthers on Sunday.
Why is that?
Well, I watched one Bryce Perkins and one Rocky Lombardi, who are the quarterbacks for Michigan, take on win and split some time. A couple guys I know very well.
This segment of the show has been brought to you by the Ultimate Hoops Finals Party at Tempe Twin Peaks on Monday, April 7th. We'll broadcast from 1 to 4. Then the event starts at 5, courtesy of Bud Light and Neutral. At halftime, you have a chance to roll the jumbo dice for $25,000.
30
Hope
seconds.
that you'll join us at the Tempe Twin Peaks. If you can't make it in Tempe, you have 4 other locations at Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks, eats, drinks, and scenic views. All right, coming up, we're going to go out to Weekapaw Casino Resort in the WKP Sportsbook. And then we'll have former NAU head coach Mike Adris will be with us here live from Wright Toyota. We know you have choices. Thanks for making us part of your day. It's Roc and Manuch with Jimmy B right here on ESPN 620 and on FM at 98.7 HD2.
Sportsbook Zone Kirk Brumbaugh on Roc and Manuch with Jimmy B. Powered by Weekapaw Casino Resort on ESPN 620.
Kurt, what's going on, my friend? How you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great, guys. How are you all doing?
Doing well. How's your bracket? I don't know if you fill out one because you're in the business, but if you would have filled one out, how would you have done?
I'm a Big Ten guy, so I'd still have a few dogs left in the race, but yeah, I wouldn't be doing too well.
So how's it been the early part? Coming off of last weekend, we talked to you last Friday. Of course, it's the busiest 4 days in sports. How did the book do? Because there were a few upsets, but for the most part, we're talking chalk for the most for what we're looking at now.
there truly hasn't been that many upsets this year. Not as many as in normal years. The favorites have been covering, and not to say that it doesn't happen, but the book has been taking a beating.
Really? So when favorites typically, not just WKP Sportsbook, any book in general, and you've worked in Vegas, is that typical when you see more of the favorites winning, the actual book loses? Or not loses, but doesn't make as much money?
Last night, fine example, every favorite won. Thank goodness it was opening day for MLB, or we would have had a real bad day. But that's neither here nor there. But yes, when Duke and Alabama and Florida covered, it crushed us.
Oh man! But how about so Duke did cover for your book? 'Cause I know some people had Arizona on the other side of that. So, all right, when you look at tonight. And we got some pretty good games tonight. I think everybody's pretty excited about some of these games. Do you see the same thing? Do you see, a lot of people jumping on the favorites?
You know what? It's kind of the total opposite for tonight.
Really?
So we had Michigan, and I'll give you a quick detail here. We had Michigan starting the day at +9. They're already down to +8. A lot of big money's coming on Michigan. And on the retrospect of it, a lot of money's coming in on Mississippi too. So we got two dogs right there, just right off the top, that a lot of big money's coming in on here late in the day.
And you think, Kirk, that Michigan Auburn, we thought that's a big nut. That's a big number right there.
8.5.
8.5 to 9. So it is getting a lot of plays, what you're saying.
Yes. Yeah, we've moved the line actually down even. We're at Michigan with just +8 because everybody's coming on board for Michigan.
So how does that work, Kurt? I mean, we don't need you to take us behind the scenes per se, but does a sports book move a line? We always hear about the wise guys in Las Vegas. I mean, is there a one or two outlets that kind of drive it and then people follow it? How does that work?
So I don't want to speak for anybody else, but
Sure.
Here we're a self-funded one. We don't have anybody backing us. We back ourselves.
Okay.
So we have to look at, okay, how much money is being placed on this team? How much money is being placed on that team? If it starts getting overwhelming on one, then we have to start changing the line to it. So there really isn't a mathematical per se formula for it. It's more of my gut feeling.
Okay.
Well, Kirk, what about the human element as far as watching the teams? Auburn seems to be back to where they were early on in the year. Michigan, but how much in reference to the actual element of the basketball teams per se is brought into that?
So that's a very good point. I think, and granted, this is just my opinion again, I think what happened was everybody started seeing Michigan at the tail end of their last game thinking, wow, if they play Auburn like this, there's no way Auburn's going to beat them by 9 points. So the visual part does come into play for the bettors, not for us. We're all based on the money standpoint right there.
Kirk Brumbaugh joining us, table game director at Weekapaw Casino Resort and the WKP Sportsbook. We're going to be there for the Final Four on April 5th, and it's going to be a huge party as we'll be there for both games. 25 people at halftime of each game will have an opportunity to roll the dice for $50,000. Hey, Kurt, how funny is this? You probably don't know this, but Jimmy B, our number 3, he's off on Fridays, is like top 5 in the $100,000 bracket contest. But the great thing about it is, even if he won, he couldn't win because he's part of the show. So we're not sure what we'll do with that if he wins $100,000.
Well, he'll have bragging rights.
Yeah, that's exactly what he said. That's exactly what he said. So, what are your expectations for the weekend when it gets down to the Elite 8?
I remember our conversation at the beginning where I said I dropped Duke down on there. I don't see anybody beating Duke. They have put their head and shoulders above everybody else. I see them being real good. Now, on the other side of it, flip side of it, I want to see Houston and Purdue. Houston has a defense that can match up with anybody. So we'll see how they go right there, too.
So when it comes to the book itself, looking at the games tonight, it sounds like you already got Duke and Alabama there. You already got Florida and Texas Tech. But from a book standpoint, I mean, are you favoring, Michigan State over Ole Miss, or maybe Kentucky over Tennessee? Or how about an upset like Michigan, if Michigan can get by Auburn? I think Houston's going to win. I think a lot of people feel that's going to happen. But do you guys think that way, or you just let it play out and then you guys work on the lines?
Well, we let it play out, but the lines get set throughout the whole United States. We try not to vary too much through it.
Yeah.
But
4 minutes.
Michigan State -4, Houston -8.5, and then Tennessee -4.5. The one thing that surprises me that sticks out so far with all the lines and everything, because here in Arizona, you can only bet on the totals, the win-loss. You can't bet on player props here in Arizona. But the one line that sticks out to me the most already is the over and under for Alabama Duke. It's roughly 20 points higher than any of the other ones. The over and under so far for the Duke-Alabama game, 174. That's high. Okay. But then you look at the score from last night, they would have covered pretty much an NBA over and under game.
Well, we were talking earlier about the first 1 to 100 in that game right there, Kirk, Bama-Duke game. I mean, we're seeing some high-scoring NCAAs, and to that point right there, 173.5 is the current over-under. That might be too low.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, Kurt, we're excited to be out there next week, and we'll end up talking to you next week, obviously Friday before it all goes down on the Final Four, and then, of course, the National Championship on Monday. So have a good weekend at the book, and we'll look forward to talking to you and seeing you next week.
Look forward to seeing you guys, too, hopefully.
You will. Kurt Brumbaugh joining us, table games director at the WKP Sportsbook. Again, we've talked about it numerous times. We did our Super Bowl party in the conference center there at Weekapaw. Foghat. Remember Foghat?
Absolutely remember Foghat.
They're playing tomorrow night there.
No kidding. Oh, my God. Take me back to the high school days there. Foghat. Oh, my God.
Foghat at the Weekapaw Casino.
2 minutes. 2 minutes.
They're still around, huh?
Yeah, definitely. So good stuff there. So, again, as I mentioned, I'll mention it one more time that we will be there at the WKP Sportsbook. We're doing $100 props. We're doing $100 squares. We're doing the jumbo dice at halftime for $50,000. They have stepped up with a bunch of prizes as well. We also got Dos Equis and the Papa Shot will be there as they're putting that together. So you and I will have to do a little
competition.
Bet. Yeah. I want to see. Jimmy says he was a good NBA, good basketball player.
Yeah. What was it? What wasn't he good at, Rock? What was it, Jimmy? I mean, he's
just ask him.
Yeah.
Just ask him. We do have some news that just came down in regards to the Arizona Diamondbacks, as they have extended one of their pitchers. They've agreed to right-hander Brandon Pfaadt to a 5-year contract extension through 2030. It'll begin 2026 with a club option for 2031 and a mutual option for 2032. So he's going to stick around for a while, Brandon Pfaadt. So that's good stuff. So we'll look forward to seeing him pitch this weekend. But coming up, we're pretty excited as not every day you get Coach Mike Aegis in person live at Wright Toyota. So we'll spend some time with him talking about the games yesterday, talking about the games tomorrow, and just maybe what his prediction is going to be for the Final Four, because we get close to getting this Elite Eight going. So he will join us next. It's Roc and Manuch with Jimmy B live from, I was going to say Twin Peaks. This is actually Wright Toyota here on ESPN 620.
It's Friday, and the guys are live from Wright Toyota. Right on the corner, right on the price. Wright Toyota, located at 77th Street and Frank Lloyd Wright Boulevard in Scottsdale. Now back to the guys on ESPN 620.
Tournament record. Sears has it tied. This is for the record for himself.
Making Mike's up.
3-pointer number 9.
All right, it was all chalk early yesterday evening as number 1 Florida and number 2 Alabama both delivered some blowout wins. You just heard the Tide as they had some records. They broke the record for the most points in an NCAA tournament with 113, most three-pointers by a team in a tournament with 25, a tournament game that is, and then most three-pointers attempted, 51. And you heard Mark Sears there, who led the way with 34 points, shot 10 of 16 from the three-point land. And then, of course, Duke takes care of business with Arizona, and Texas Tech delivered the second largest comeback ever in the Sweet 16. They rallied back from 16 to beat Arkansas 85-83 in overtime. And joining us now, he's been joining us for the entire tournament, is Mike Aegis, former NAU head basketball coach. What are you doing in Arizona?
You know, we try to get out here every spring.
Okay.
Our daughters live here. I have a daughter and son-in-law that live here in Phoenix, and my second daughter is going to vet school down the road in Tucson,
Nice.
and she's coming up this evening. So a little family reunion for us.
Well, we're glad that you could carve out some time for us here and be in person instead of on the phone. So, of the 4 games last night, what was the most entertaining game for you?
Well, entertaining had to be that first one. I mean, Alabama, BYU, the way those two teams just came out shooting the ball, scoring. You know, I recruit to shoot was our mantra at NAU when I was there, right? So I like scoring points and stuff like that. And I thought that game was pretty entertaining, although I thought they all were. Duke's performance last night was really impressive, to say the least. I thought I didn't expect it. You know, I give Love a lot of credit for Arizona. He battled his butt off and tried, but it was going up against a wall. And I had a chuckle earlier. Those comments by Flag afterwards that, you know, all those comments. Yeah, the AI stuff. Yeah. That was. You got to give props to Connor now. Is he the one that puts that together?
Yeah, Jax. Yep.
Okay, that stuff is hilarious.
I mean, we may want to cue that up there, Connor, because it was pretty good.
Just class, because you can't imagine that not from what I've seen or heard of Cooper Flag. You know, I mean, you just think that he's a great guy.
We also did John Calipari, right?
Yeah, I saw
and
that.
Even Manuch during the break, he's like, "There's no way that's a Cooper Flag. I can't imagine him ever being like that. He's 17."
Yeah.
But when you hear Calipari, you're like, ugh. So let's do this. We're going to play it real quick. We'll play both of them. So the first one, again, this is stuff that's gone viral. This is all AI generated. And this is Cooper Flag after last night's win over Arizona.
I'm the best basketball player in this country. So it's not a coincidence that I balled out tonight. Dropped 30-piece chicken McNuggets to go along with 6 boards and 7 assists. I even had a couple alley-oop passes to come on. It was a dominant performance for the Dukies. We sent those cactus-humping peasants back to Tucson, where they belong. See you guys on Saturday.
That's not Cooper Flag.
It sounded like a foreign accent. Yeah, it did. One part in there, right? Australian accent or something there.
But the 30-piece McNugget, I'm telling you, he was like right on the money with that number, wasn't he?
So the other one we played is and let's make sure we get the right one, Connor. Let's just go with the AI one, not the right one, because Calipari had some good things to say after his presser as well. But here is another AI-generated post-game presser with John Calipari.
Yeah, I might be wearing a $2,000 suit. My Armani, by the way. It's real nice, slick hair, expensive cologne. I'm a great coach, and I looked the part, but I got beat tonight by a bum wearing a $75 Nike zip-up. And as embarrassing as it is to lose to a man with the fashion sense of a gym teacher from the 90s. Grant McCaslin's Red Raiders beat us fair and square. And yeah, it hurts to lose after leading by 16 points with 10 minutes left. But hey, at least I got further than Pitino. Bada bing, bada boom. Anyways.
Outstanding.
See you guys.
That's great stuff.
Yeah.
That is sportainment at its finest, Coach, right
And
there.
Coach, we discussed that, if we were in a restaurant, just all of us and Coach Calipari, that would be what he would say.
Absolutely.
Just like that.
Absolutely. He's a great person, by the way. We go way back. 91, I picked John up at the airport in Des Moines, Iowa. I was a restricted earnings coach at Drake, and he was a second-year coach at the University of Massachusetts. Nobody knew who he was. LA Gear was the shoe sponsor back in the time, if you can remember those.
Yes.
Right?
I had some.
Yeah. And good.
I had some.
So you know what I'm talking
Oh,
about.
yeah.
I have a pair. I think they fell apart while I was playing right in them and stuff like that. But yeah, nobody knew who he was. I didn't know who he was, and we just started talking as on the drive back. And I thought, this guy's pretty sharp and witty and funny, and so not surprised that AI. Absolutely, I would buy all of that right now.
Surprised that John Calipari team up by 16 would lose that game.
Nah, that was pretty.
Because he's typically the other way around.
Yeah, that's hard to. Boy, you're kicking yourself off
Yes,
after that.
yes.
Okay, you're saying, how did that just happen? I did like his comment about, of course, I would have called the timeout. Now knowing the results of not calling the timeout right at the end of the ball game, and he probably wished he had about 5 other timeout calls in that final stretch there. Down the.
But his teams, Coach, what is it about his? Is it his coaching, his philosophy? I mean, you looked at Arkansas in the year; they're giving up dead for rights, and to see them at the end of the year and they see them in the tournament.
Well, $5 million NIL, right?
Well, that helps a little bit, but I mean, but they were scruffle-upless early in the year. They were a mess.
I told my buddy from Arkansas, I said, I don't think they're winning 5 games in that league this year. And then all of a sudden, they just flipped the switch. I had to apologize to Joe recently because I said, hey, I got that one wrong, and I'll give you credit for that. I think what he does is he challenges your manhood in a certain way, but then what you don't see behind the scenes is the love and the personal conversations, and everybody sitting in his living room, throughout the year. And, it's that bond where he can challenge them. He's not afraid to challenge them like some young coaches are today because, you're worried about losing your players. For Cal, okay, you want to go somewhere else, fine. I'll replace you with somebody else. I got the money to replace you. So, there's that mentality. And I think, when he says this has been a rewarding year because these guys are playing like one, and they really were these last couple of weeks. 100% Manuch, that's a different team than what I saw back in December, January.
And different, real quick, Rock, 81 threes in a college basketball game, especially NCAA tournament when you look at Bama and BYU.
Yeah.
I know you used to probably dream of having that many when you're at NAU, whatever.
Absolutely.
But talk about the NBA, how it's trickled down to these kids who are phenomenal shooters. But 81 in an NCAA tournament?
Do you see where they're shooting from?
Yes.
They're not. I'm thinking when the 3-point line originally came in, it was 19-9, which is the top of the key. Okay. Well, that college line is a good 2 feet beyond that now, and very close to the NBA level. And it's not like they're shooting from the line. You know what I'm saying? They're 2, 3, 4 feet behind the line and making it look simple.
3 minutes.
I mean, yeah, kids today, they just grow up bombing differently.
You're talking about John Calipari, and he said it was a rewarded type season for him and all that. Is the $7 million that he got a season, and the $1 million signing bonus, and the $500,000 retention bonus, and the incentives based on the tournament that didn't play into that at all?
I think that makes him feel pretty good today. I don't think he's dwelling
That's
on last
the solace
night's loss.
of losing.
Yes, exactly. and it'll keep the Hog fans off his back for at least a year. And then who knows, 2 years from now, it may all change again. unfortunately, that's the nature of the
What
beast
have you
nowadays.
enjoyed about what you've seen so far? I mean, it's pretty much chalk.
Yeah.
But it's the best of the best that we're seeing now. And I think eventually it'll be the best of the best and then the rest of them, unfortunately. But for you as a former head coach, what are you enjoying about this tournament?
2 minutes.
I just love the way that they are putting together just marquee game after marquee game. You know, I mean, if you're truly a basketball fan, we're seeing, like last night, it was 4 really fun games to watch.
Yeah.
I mean, if you turn the channel, you miss something pretty good, right?
Unless you took BYU.
Yeah, but
because a lot of people were on the BYU side.
Oh, absolutely. And they're on, you know, the Michigan side tonight. I heard your guy talking beforehand. I think that's going to run out, but you
Do
know,
you really?
yeah, I just don't see. You know, I do think what we saw last night was an offensive explosion, and people saw that, and that's highly entertaining. Don't count on that tonight. I think tonight's going to be different. I think tonight's the teams that win are going to be the teams that play defense tonight. Okay. And that's why I think it's going to be a different dynamic of college basketball that true fans will recognize and appreciate last night's style and tonight's style.
Because last night's style
About a minute
seems
left.
to be
1 minute.
where we're going, or we have been when it comes to threes. For
Yeah.
Alabama to score 113, being that's the highest ever in a Sweet 16. You know, Duke had 100. I mean, we're seeing some really high-scoring games, and I think Manuch and I talked about it last week. We were going back in time on this day, and there were final games that were like 55 to 53, you know,
75,
60.
73.
Yeah, I mean, now they're 98, they're at least 80. You know,
When the 3-point shot was introduced into the college game, the mathematician said if you shoot 40% from 3, I think it is, it's like shooting 60% from 2. Well, nobody really shoots 60% from 2, so why not shoot 40% from 3? And I think that's where a lot of coaches see that now.
So we're dating ourselves. That was the mathematics. It's the analytics now,
Oh,
right?
yeah, correct.
It's what
Yeah.
the
Or
analytics,
the metrics.
or the
show.
metrics. It's like it's so crazy how they do the terminology. Hey, we're gonna take a quick one. We're out here at Wright Toyota. I think Connor's going to have an update for us. Is he going to have an update for us? Yes, we'll get that. Get you caught up in what happened today with the Diamondbacks, a big signing. So he'll have that next. It's Roc and Manuch with Jimmy B from Wright Toyota here on ESPN 620.
It's Friday, and the guys are live from Wright Toyota, right on the corner, right on the price, right
Playing a highlight real quick.
at 77th Street and Frank Lloyd Wright Boulevard in Scottsdale. Now back to the guys on ESPN 620.
And this is who you want. Knox will pick him up. Williams corkscrews up, off, and down. It, driving on Hawkins, firing off.
Making Mike's hot.
Here it is again. Look at Williams.
That was Arkansas and Texas Tech last night. An incredible comeback by Texas Tech to win in overtime, thanks to TBS. Joining us here, Mike Adris, the former NAU coach. 20 years. Spent some time up there in Flagstaff. That is just a long time doing. I don't think I've ever done anything that long.
Oh, we've had a relationship for you and I going on 21 years. What are you talking about? Best 20 years of your life.
It's been a roller coaster
Kidding
ride.
me?
It's been a bumpy ride. Let's talk about tonight's games. Let's start with Ole Miss and Michigan State. You know, if I'm just looking at this as just a pure basketball fan, this is Izzo's 16th Sweet 16 appearance. I don't think of Ole Miss as a basketball program, okay? Michigan State, Izzo's been there. When you kind of look at this game, give us kind of like, how you would analyze this.
I think it's going to be a toughness game because Coach Beard at Mississippi has just got that mentality in him. He's just a fighter, and his teams reflect his personality. And you look at Michigan State, and, I mean, you're looking at one of the best coaches in college basketball. I mean, the career that man's had is phenomenal.
Yeah.
He's got a really good team. I think there's something special about this year for that team for some reason. I don't know if they're the best team. I certainly, people aren't going to say that they look like a Final Four team, but I just think it's one of those where it just happens to be a special year for Tom Izzo and that team, and they're going to fight tooth and nail for that man the rest of the way out.
We watched Ole Miss, the veterans, if you will, the old guard, all the seniors on that Ole Miss team.
Yeah.
How it's played out so far, slowing it down. We've talked about that a couple times with you, how they've kind of slowed it down. They don't panic. But, you got this youthful, talented Michigan State team. Not that the age isn't a detriment, but will that catch up to him? Will the talent take over the experience overtake the talent?
I'm hoping
most
that
times.
Yeah, the experience. I'm a big experience person, and so you can't put that away at all. And Padula is a tremendous player.
Phenomenal.
I mean, you just love him, and I understand why,
Sure.
right? But Michigan State, that Richardson kid, even though he's a freshman, is so talented, and I don't think he's played that well so far in this tournament, right? But you let that master go home for a couple of days, get back in that kid's head, and get that kid to feel good about himself. And certainly the genes are going to play out here, right? Because
Sure.
the lineage is tremendous there. I'm thinking it's time for a takeoff of that youthful player there.
Kentucky, Tennessee, a third time these teams have met. Hard to beat a team three times, but
great line right there, right? I just, kudos to Kentucky that they have won this matchup twice. Coaches will tell you that it is really hard to beat somebody a third time. It's nice going into the game knowing that you can beat that team, okay? But Tennessee's got a little chip on their shoulder, I would think, and I think their defense will lock in. Again, I keep harping on the defense tonight, but I think that Tennessee defense is going to be enough to finally slow Kentucky to where Tennessee is in control of the game and not having to play come from behind basketball like they had in the two previous games.
This is the game that Jimmy B will get the DVR, Betamax, whatever. Michigan, Auburn. Has Auburn gotten back to where they were? I mean, they seem to finally have recaptured. Then there's Michigan with the big boys.
Yeah.
So how do you
flying
see
under the radar?
Yeah. How do you see this playing out?
He loves those two big guys.
Oh, he does.
Doesn't he? I mean, Wolf is amazing. He's a statistical guy that just everywhere across the board, passing, rebounding, shooting threes. It's pretty amazing. But I said to you earlier this week, to me, Auburn was the best team in college basketball this season.
Right.
Not necessarily here in the postseason, but this season. And so, I think Bruce Pearl does enough to recapture where they are. I mean, certainly he's got great talent. They have, 5 guys that can score in double figures for him. So there's enough balance. If Michigan can hold down their big guys, right? If they can negate Broom with their length and size and force him to have an off night, all of a sudden maybe that can change the complexion.
The sky was falling 2 weeks ago at Auburn.
Yeah.
So what did Bruce Pearl do? I know that leave the conference championship. Think about that.
Yeah.
What flipped the script?
They're talented. This whole season, they've been a very good defensive team. And again, you focus on that, and then you tell them the offense will play itself out. And I think when they buy back in, all right, we got away from coach and what he's been telling us all season long, and now we have to get back to better listen to him, because that's going to help us get through.
You mean kids get full of themselves, coach?
Yeah, well,
they get fat, dumb, and happy?
All right. Let's talk about a Purdue team that struggled down the stretch. They lost to Illinois. They just got by USC. They get beat pretty bad to Michigan. And in this tournament, they've had High Point, and they only beat them by, 11 points. And then they got by McNeese State, 76-62. Now they have Houston.
Yeah, and with Purdue, Smith and Lawyer were on a Final Four championship game team a year ago. So they have that, right? And Kaufman's a very good player as well. I just don't think 3 pieces is enough to beat Houston. And even with the experience, I know I bragged on having experience earlier in the broadcast here, but this Houston team is dynamic in taking you out of what you like to do. And I don't know, Smith turns the ball over way too much for me as a point guard. And, he averages 3 turnovers, something like that. And it's just too many. And Houston's going to dial up the pressure even more so. And now who's going to step up? I don't see it on Purdue's team. That's the problem. I mean, if it's not Lawyer and Kaufman or Smith, wow, you take 1-2 of those guys out of the game, Houston could really cruise in this game tonight.
Is this one of the most tenacious defensive teams you've seen in many, many years? And what can you compare it to in years past?
Well, I'll tell you who I compare it to. I compare it to UNLV running Rebels.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
wow.
90 championship team. They would suffocate the heck out of teams. And, they were good offensively,
2 minutes.
but not great offensively. And that's, certainly Houston is not the best offensively, but that team is better this year than they were a year ago when they didn't get to the Final Four. And because they've improved offensively, and they're going to show up and play defense. The interesting one on that one, though, the game's being played in Indianapolis. I don't know how a number 1 seed has to go play a team, in this case, Purdue, in their backyard. Yeah.
Right, we only have a few minutes left. Let's try to squeeze in Texas Tech, Florida, and Bama, Duke tomorrow. When you look at Texas Tech and Florida and Bama, Duke, chalk. Or how are you looking at this one? Texas Tech squeaked in.
Yeah, Texas Tech's gonna struggle because of the size of Florida. Florida is just too big and just a better team, I think. I like Texas Tech. I appreciate what they did. Williams went to the same high school as I did, so I cheer for him, and that was thrilling to watch him go off last night. But
so he had better his number retired with yours, or
right next to Coach, right? The Coach Mike Akers.
I'm trying to get my name on the floor before he gets his name on the floor.
you just want a brick walking in the facility.
Here, step right on over me, please.
Got to write a bigger check.
So Florida, I think, is that one I feel pretty good about. And then Duke, I'm just getting more and more impressed by them. And I'm not a Dookie fan at all. I'm one of the opposites of that. So it's hard for me to cheer. But boy, oh boy, Flag is so fun to watch. And they have the other pieces, guys that can make threes, guys, a big boy inside. He's got to be 7 feet tall. I was looking at him last night going, he is a monster.
Clear to start rapping. Clear to rap.
It's going to be tough beating either one of those teams based on how they're playing right now.
Got a minute when you see Cooper Flag play. I mean, I watched him head to toe last night.
Okay.
You see highlights. I'm like, damn, this kid's damn good.
Yeah.
So when you watch him, what do you say?
I say generational. That's what I say. I really think he's going to be that kind of a player in the NBA. Just because of his skill set. He leads Duke in every offensive statistical category. And he's not the point guard and he's not the center, and yet he leads them in block shots, rebounds, steals, on and on and on and on.
Larry Bird part due?
Oh boy.
Yeah, who do you compare him
to? Boy, that's a good one. I don't know yet. I'd have to think about that one. I'd like to say that Bird. Why not? But I don't see him.
Athleticism coach. Up and down the court.
He's got that too.
Is he better than a Christian Laettner type?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think so. His body's going to get better too. Not that his body's not good right now, but I think when he gets NBA tutelage daily from some of their individual workout guys and how they're able to develop him, I just think if he's here, he's going to wind up, much, much higher than that. If he stays healthy, that's the one crazy thing that you have to hope. And that NBA season's a long season.
Yeah, just stay healthy. Coach, thank you. Appreciate you coming down. We'll talk to you here on Monday, I'm assuming.
Yes.
And we'll get a recap of the weekend, and we'll look ahead to the Final Four. That's Mike Adris, former NAU head basketball coach, joining us for a couple segments here at Wright Toyota. We'll continue. We'll close up shop, get you ready. The Suns are going to be coming up at 5 o'clock on Arizona Sports 98.7, and then we will have Cubs and Diamondbacks at 6:40 here on ESPN 620. We'll continue next here on Roc and Manuch with Jimmy B.
It's the Lerner and Rowe one call, that's all call of the day. If you're looking for a full-service law firm, just make one call, that's all. 602-977-1900. Lerner and Rowe, voted Arizona's best law firm.
2 seconds left. Key for the
Make it Mike's out.
Impossible.
Josh Giddey last night, the game winner, half quarter, 47 feet, 3-pointer there, 119-117.
Oh, Lord.
Chicago beats the LA Lakers. And, how ironic the night before, the Lakers went on a tap in LeBron, and then they get this one.
Yeah, I mean, the whole reference to I'm coming to Elizabeth and Giddey being from Australia. Good day, mate. I mean, that's classic podcasting, man. That's great stuff.
That's why there's pros, and then there's Jimmy B.
That's a good segue there, Rock. Yeah, Jimmy B's clip of the week. I debated between the whole Fireball segment we had yesterday, but this one to me is kind of an underrated clip because every time we bring Arizona basketball radio analyst Ryan Hansen on.
Why does he call him coach?
Calls him coach. Not in this clip, they didn't call him coach.
Okay.
But they have a special relationship. So there's like a 3-part of this clip, right? So the first part, Jimmy B likes to brag and kind of show people that he knows how to talk basketball with his question, followed by Ryan Hansen giving him a great response and complimenting him. In the background, you see Rock saying, oh, geez, oh, Louise. Yeah. Maybe a little jealousy. And then Rock wants to get into it, asking for maybe a compliment from Ryan Hansen. So here's the full clip for Jimmy B's clip of the week.
That's good.
Ryan Hansen's our guest on the Right Toyota guest line. Well, Houston doesn't have Cooper Flagg or Tyrese Proctor. I will say this, Coach. With the way that you have set this game up, and I believe Arizona does have a chance to pull the upset, but you talked about their length and how active they are defensively. For me, I would like to see some guys try to take the ball to the basket and try to create contact and see if you can get some of those Duke players in some foul trouble, especially in the first half. Am I all wet on this, or are they going to go in a different direction?
No, outstanding analysis as always, Jimmy. When you look at what...
All right, Ryan, last one. This is Rock. Since you're on payroll with Jimmy B, he gave me this question to ask you, hoping that I'll get some props for it. But with a 9:39 local tip, what has Coach Floyd been doing? How long have you guys been there? When are they doing practices? Things like that.
That's a great question. We actually, the team stayed the night in.
I liked your question better, Rock.
By the way, that game didn't tip till after 10 o'clock.
Yeah, their time. That it was. I mean, to have that kind of energy going up and down the court. But Jimmy was flexing.
I'm glad you pointed that out because his question was a lot shorter than Jimmy B's. I'm cutting the clip. I'm like, man, Jimmy B's question is 35 seconds long.
Well, all his questions are long. Yeah, he basically asks the question, gives the answer, then asks the question again.
Long questions, short fella.
Yeah.
Got it.
It's like, that's good stuff. All right, here's what's on tap, brought to you by the Roc and Manuch Chamber. By Dos Equis. Okay, coming up at 5 o'clock on Arizona Sports 98.7 and on Arizona Family 3 TV, it's the Suns and Timberwolves. This is going to be a game that if they can win this game, you could say, hey, what happened before the Boston loss was legit. You beat Milwaukee, you beat Cleveland. And then, this is going to get some momentum. Maybe they just, you got a Boston team which clearly is the best team in the NBA, and they took care of business with Milwaukee and Cleveland, but you get a Minnesota team that's in the playoffs right now. They're fighting for a better spot. So this would be a good win, a really good win.
It's just so funny. It's kind of like where you see as you mentioned, you kind of look at the varsity team and the JV team, that Boston game. Yeah. But I mean, they've got to take advantage of this weekend. The Minnesota game, as you talk about tonight, and then coming back here on Sunday. And you've got to win because next week on the road at Milwaukee, at Boston, at New York, before you come back and basically close out the season with Golden State, Oklahoma City, and then your last two might suffice to get you back in to the play-in with San Antonio and Sacramento. Now, Sacramento is the last team that you're going to be going back and forth with. It could come down, Rock, next week at this time, or a week from Sunday, I should say, that they play Sacramento on the 13th for the last play-in spot. Dallas won last night. Sacramento won last night. Key is Dallas has got Davis back. Sacramento's filling it a little bit. So it's going to be the games that they've got to win are tonight on the road. Are they live? Are they Memorex? Pretenders, contenders, whatever you want to say. And you got to come back there and win at home on Houston because you only have 1, 2, 3, 4 more home games. The rest are on the road and with tough opponents.
All right, here's also what's on tap. Cubs at D-backs here on ESPN 620 and 98.7 HD2. That thing will start at 6:40. Here are the games in basketball. Starting at 4:09 on Channel 5, it's Michigan State and Ole Miss. TBS True TV will have at 4:39 Tennessee, Kentucky, and then Auburn, Michigan on CBS 5 at 6:39. Houston, Purdue at 7:09 on TBS and True TV. We got some football tonight. The UFL is underway, their second season as St. Louis takes on Houston. That is going on as well. And then it all starts again on Saturday.
Four
so
minutes.
the Elite Eight will start at 3 o'clock with Texas Tech, Florida. And then at 5:49, it'll be Alabama, Duke. Those are both on TBS. And then a lot of women basketball. Then you got some more football. And then D-backs, Cubs again. And then, as you mentioned, Manuch, on Sunday, the Suns and Houston.
Yeah, it's been one of those games. I had a lot of fun today talking about the villains in sports. That leads to our State 4A Roofing It's Your Call question today. For a free quote, repair, installation, head to state4aroofing.com. Follow them on social media by searching hashtag sexy roof status.
So it's still open.
Still
So
open.
You got to go to the site.
Go to at Roc and Manuch. Exactly. I was going to get there. I got
No,
that.
you weren't.
Yeah, I was. I always
No,
do.
no.
I've got this State 4A down.
You
by
really
the way.
don't. You
Yeah,
really
I always
don't.
go. Preface it by saying, just go to State.
Really don't.
Yeah, I go State 4A Roofing. Go to at Roc and Manuch on Twitter.
So
All right.
how are you going to give the results today?
I was just going to ask Jax to see what kind of write-ins we had. We
3
gained
minutes,
several.
3 minutes.
So what kind of write-ins we got there, Jax?
Oh, yeah, we got
Bill
a couple.
Lambier, you
Couple replies. We got Dan Hurley, Bill Lambier, Danny Ainge are the replies that we have so far.
I'm surprised Barry Bonds isn't in that bad boy. Probably the villain of all villains, one being one Barry Bonds. So that was a little fun just kind of going back to I can give you another one when I was playing. A guy named Conrad Dobler, who was I played with in Buffalo. Connie was when he was the St. Louis Rams in those days. Excuse me. Yeah, St. Louis.
Is it Rams?
No, hold on. St. Louis Cardinals. I'm sorry. St. Louis Cardinals was the guy that would
So
hold, kick.
St. Louis Cardinals
Yeah, they were the
football team.
Football team. He would hold, kick, punch, scream,
Did it
grab. You never know. So Connie, God rest his
Was
soul.
he one of the guys that led the charge to help with the brain?
Yeah, he was one of them.
Or injuries. Or,
Yeah, he donated. I believe Connie donated his brain because he
2
was
minutes, 2 minutes.
he was a mess when we got him because his elbows and knees and what have you. But he was like that villainous guy. If you look at villains of the National Football League, you'll see Conrad Dobler in those mid 70s all the way through to the early 80s. One of those guys. We had him for 2 years in Buffalo, but he was a guy that great guy, became a banker later on, but led that charge. A lot of families are donating the former players' brains to signs.
If you missed it, a report today that the Arizona Diamondbacks have agreed to a 5-year contract extension through 2030, and it'll start next year, 2026, with a club option for 2031 and a mutual option for 2032 for righty Brandon Pfaadt. So that is good news. I love the fact that the Diamondbacks are spending money.
Yeah,
This is a good sign.
And I think that they saw him last year really start to make the progress. Last year he was up, he was down, up and down, but at the end of the year, he performed very, very well. So when you look at this rotation of, you look at Gallen, you look at Kelly.
Oh, that's great.
I mean, Erod, and then move on from there. A good solid 5.
I heard Kirchin on with 98.7 today in Arizona Sports, and they asked him the top 3 rotations, and it was Arizona was number 3.
Sure, yeah.
Obviously, Dodgers number 1.
Dodgers. Who was number 2?
30 seconds.
Not
30
quite sure
seconds.
yet, but to see two top rotations in the National League West.
I can't remember. Maybe it was the Yankees. I don't even remember.
Might have been the Yankees.
That's terrible.
Let's go, D-backs.
20
Get
seconds.
in gear,
20
man.
seconds.
Again, D-backs will be on at 7 o'clock. You got a pregame starting at around 6:30, so keep it here on ESPN 20. Have a great weekend. We'll see you back here Monday.